Hey, what's up? Unqualified Critics here. So I haven't done a stream in a while, so I'm excited about this one. And obviously, my guest is gonna be Retro Ralph. Um, he and I've been chatting a lot over the last few months, just texting, shooting the breeze here and there. So I thought it would be cool if we could just connect and shoot the breeze with you guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and add him in, and we'll see what's up.
Hey
Ralph,
man,
what's up, man?
how's it going?
It's going well, my dude. So you were in a little bit of a rush today. Were you coming from something?
Well, I'll talk about it later. I was dropping off a bunch of
Okay.
packages, so so I was trying to get some
Oh,
stuff
okay. So
shipped out.
related to the yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah,
Santa Claus stuff.
yeah,
Well, man, I feel like we talked about a bunch of random things, so I thought it would be cool to get together and shoot the crap here.
yeah,
And
man. I
obviously,
know.
you've your channel I feel like has evolved a lot in the last year. So I was just kind of wanting to pick your brain a little bit about that, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, let's talk about whatever.
All
I'm
right,
open for
man.
whatever. Yeah.
So I was watching some of the Chasing Nostalgia episodes earlier just to kind of remind myself, catch up, prep for when we're chatting. And it's funny the way you talk about pinball is how I feel about original arcade hardware. Like I dig it, I like it, I love finding new barcades and stuff. And I played them a lot as a kid, but I don't I can't get in and work on them, and I don't feel qualified to maintain them and support them and all that stuff. So when I hear
Yeah.
you talk about pinball, like, I want to get into pinball, but you kind of have that little edge of apprehension almost, if I'm picking up on that. I feel similarly about like the machines you have behind you, which is super lame, but that's where it is.
It's not lame. It's actually pretty normal. I think like I didn't really know what I was getting myself into when I mean I had bought a real machine a long time ago. This was like, I don't know, maybe 2001, and it just worked and it broke. It was a Galaga, and when it broke, I kind of just like it's just stayed broke. I was super freaked out. I remember opening up the back panel. I'm like, dude, what the hell? Like I looked at it, I was like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. And I just kind of was like, I'll just do MAME. Like I'll just do emulation and be done with it. Cause it was like, I felt very overwhelmed. And plus there's a big lightning bolt that says like, warning, you could just like
Right.
get super electrocuted right
You
now.
might
So,
die.
so I don't think I think it's pretty normal to feel freaked out to buy an original arcade because they're old and they're gonna break. I mean, that's just part of the deal, you know?
And it's the exact opposite of like the way the world has gone, right? Everything's disposable now. It's
Yeah,
use it
totally.
once and chuck it. And original hardware has just had crazy staying power, which is awesome.
I'm shocked that some of the stuff still even works. You know what I mean? I mean, I went over to not that long ago. I went to and you should totally go to this place, by the way, if you ever get a chance. If you ever find yourself in Vegas for work or whatever, go over to the Pinball Hall of Fame. They have some stuff in there, and you're like, how the hell did like crazy 1950s stuff? You're all, how does this even still work? You know, and who even knows how to still fix it?
That's the part that
So
blows my mind. Like, who's still on this earth that
yeah.
knows how to deal with it? Surely there's no documentation anymore. Like that, it's mind blowing.
It's crazy. And those are really scary because it's like that
I
electromechanical
was gonna say,
stuff.
is it
So
that I've heard of electromechanical, I've
yeah.
seen pictures of it, I've never played one.
Like you don't want to mess with that. It's the ones that like if you hear those pinball machines that sound like it's like bing ba bing ba bing bing, like they sound like doorbells almost. Like it's all these, it's very 1950s, but yeah, it's a miracle that that stuff still even works. Yeah, but you're right. It's like completely opposite of like there's something to be said about being able to buy a brand new replica arcade and never really have to worry about maintenance. I mean, outside of
100%.
like some basic stuff, you know.
Yeah. For sure, man. I'm glad you brought up Vegas too, because when you had the shot, like, well, I don't know, I've got a bunch of comments we get into, but the Vegas stuff, it's funny because that pulls on recent nostalgia for me. I only discovered Vegas like maybe 2 years ago. So
Really? Like you had never
yesterday.
been or
No, I've been three, I think even four times now. My whole life I never went. I went
okay.
once for work, and then I just came back a bunch. Like I loved it.
It's
So
isn't it wild? Isn't it a
I
wild
think it's
place? Like
amazing.
it's like the craziest adult playground there is.
Yes.
Right? It's like you do feel like I don't know. I remember the first time I went. I lived so I you remember that scene? You've seen the movie Swingers, right?
No, I never
Oh, you
have.
haven't.
Which
All right, so
I'm
it
sorry to do that because I hate when people are talking and it's like, hey, cultural reference. It's like, I don't know, but no, I've never seen Swingers.
well in that movie he's like his buddy's all down and out, and he's like, we're gonna go to Vegas, but they live in California, and you can drive from California to Vegas, but it's like a
Right.
3.5 hour
That's where
drive,
I would
right?
meet buddies who live in California. They would drive, I would have to fly. But yeah,
Yeah, but in the video they're like Vegas, baby, but then they're like 2.5 hours into the drive. It's nighttime. It's dark in the middle of, yeah. They're all Vegas, baby. Like they're all bummed out, and that was my experience going to Vegas the first time because it was like one of those things on a whim where a buddy's like, "You never been to Vegas?" And I had lived in California. He's like, "Let's drive right now," and I'm like, thinking it's like 60 minutes away, but it's like a 3.5 hour drive. So you kind of lose some momentum of the excitement when you're in the car for 3.5 hours.
Yeah, I can imagine. When my boys would get there, they would always be dragging because they'd have a complete day of work, and then they would pile in the car, and then they would drive, and I'm there all refreshed and like, let's go, let's
let's
hit
do
stuff
it.
up. Yeah, and they're just like zombies until the next morning.
That's awesome.
But anyway, but so I guess we're kind of talking about chasing nostalgia now. So I'll just ask, but sort of my big question, the thing that I thought was really cool that you've done is you've transitioned into this long form content, this high production value content. And I just wonder what that's been like, right? Because like I spit out these easy, like, here's a news update. You're out there on the ground, like conducting television production at some level where normally you have a studio and a team and stuff. And when you look at your episode 1, 2, 3, 4, you can see it level up like in real time. Like I felt like especially 3 like hit a high point of like, really well produced, yeah. Man. And I know it sounds like I'm just rubbing your back, but to me, it felt like that must be really cool that you've leveled up and you've done something there. But what's that been like jumping into it? Because I would imagine it would be scary to do it the first time.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like, do you ever go back and watch like your first couple of YouTube videos and you go, wow, like I seemed really uncomfortable in front of a camera, you know? And so I think doing like the YouTube channel for 2+ years before getting into that made me feel like really comfortable with, especially because it was doing a lot of live streaming. Like you have to feel comfortable like on your toes. But you and I had both talked about how our day jobs, we have to talk and do a lot of that anyway. So it translates kind of into this. But like if it wasn't for, it was 2 things. It was like, I have an idea, but I need someone that can help me execute on that idea. And like, if it wasn't for Mason, sure, I could probably do something like this, but like he plays such a big role in it. Cause like the bad part of it is like after we film it, sometimes we're like, okay, here we're going to put in a voiceover, but sometimes I don't know exactly what that voiceover is going to be. So like him and I are then doing like the live edit and I'm like, crap, man, like this kind of, we messed up or we forgot something or maybe I have to change the dialogue a little bit because it's just us. Like there's no one going, hey, you're not following the script because there really isn't a script. Yeah. So it's like, so sometimes we miss things, but I think like to your point, these later ones where him and I are on such a like, you know, when you work with someone for a while, he knows how to work with me. I know how to work with him. And like we gel now. So like there's times where I'm like, oh, okay, this is a great transition into the next scene. And it's been a lot more. It's so different than just kind of like putting my camera on and just, you know, talking. So it's been fun though. Like it's a total passion project. I don't have any expectations from it other than entertainment value. If it ever did, you know, obviously I would love for it to become something, but I think right now it's just evolving. Like it's like we need to perfect it. And so we just keep doing it and finding cool people to go visit and places to go. And the cost is the only prohibiting factor. I mean, it's expensive to do it.
I can imagine. It looks expensive, and I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you about it, but I got to remember to get close to my damn mic. For you guys watching, my setup right now is not ideal. I'm stuck in this apartment. My bedroom's also my office, and then where I do this stuff. So life has been tough.
We can talk about the cost. I don't mind. I mean, if you think it's interesting for people,
yeah, I do think it's interesting. I just didn't figure you'd want to share, but yeah, man, what does it cost? Because it looks substantial. It looks like you've got multiple people involved. You've got travel. You're buying stuff along the way in some cases. So yeah, what does that look like?
So like I made this kind of agreement with Mason where I was like, look, in order for me to make this a reality, I would have to not pay you for your filming time. So I was like, in lieu of your filming time, I'll pay for everything else. So like that was, sorry, man, the freaking burping up my energy drink.
It's all good, man.
the obviously like the if he was charging for per the hour for filming, I would never ever be able to afford it. So what we did is we did like, I'll pay for, you know, airfare, I'll pay for any of the lodging stuff, and usually I pay for like even the food while we're doing it wherever we go. So like that's kind of the deal we made, and that definitely still is like significant. It's still a significant cost, but it does help like offset it. So it just depends. Like I've been doing, when we usually go back to Arizona, it's because I know I can do Arizona where Mason can stay at my house and we don't have to have like, so we're trying to like, when I work in an Arizona episode, it's usually because I'm thinking of how do I budget for the next one. So the Arizona ones are cheaper to produce. So yeah, I mean, it's, you think about it, right? It's airfare, it's hotel. So I mean, it can be, and the editing cost, like it can be close to 3,000 an episode.
Damn.
So it gets up there.
Yeah.
Depending on where we go.
And for anyone who's, I mean, some of you guys on here know about YouTube, but YouTube AdWords alone isn't a lot of money.
Oh my God, no way.
I feel like it's a lot less than most people imagine that it would be, right?
Like I don't know about you, but I thought,
views
didn't you think originally going into this, you're like, oh man, I'm going to be able to like pay for my hobby. I'm going to make so much money in ad revenue. And you really don't. Like it's pretty bad.
I would have thought that. And I used to think that. So the way I got into this was a little weird. I knew a guy who he bought an electric scooter. He recorded a really, and I'm not blaming him because it was his first ever video, but he recorded like a super crappy video of a review, but it went viral. It got giant, and like he refused to do anything with it, and it was driving me nuts that he didn't run with that and start making content. And so eventually I just said, whatever, I'll just take it. The channel's already monetized, because that's one of the really annoying things about YouTube. You have to have, I think, 1,000 subs and some other thresholds to
There's
even
like
get
watch
monetized.
Time. Yeah, and it's watch hours, and I can't remember what it is now, but it's been so long. But the
Is
watch
it 1,000
hours, it's a lot.
I can't remember if it's.
Yeah, it was 4,000 watch hours or something like that. I could be wrong.
Okay. In addition to a subscriber threshold too, I think.
Yeah, it's the 1,000 subscribers, and then it's some kind of watch hour number, which I can't. It might have changed from when I did it, but yeah, there's like so many watch hours, and then you can apply for it, and then they have to approve you, which that takes a while too. It's not like you hit 1,000 and they're like, "Woohoo, you're monetized!" Like you have to jump through some hoops.
The red carpet.
Yeah, no. If only.
It's so annoying, and I guess they need some kind of barrier because everybody wants to do it. It's fun. It's easy. You know, it doesn't really. You can learn as you go and stuff. But I ran with that because I was like, Jesus, dude, you got to do something here. A lot of people would love to have a monetized channel. You have this. So I just took it over and ran with it and whatever. But the reason I'm bringing that up, I saw how many views that initial video got. It was like, it was in the millions at the time.
And he wasn't monetized, right? Because that was his first video, wasn't it?
For the beginning, he wasn't. Halfway through. So I would call him and say, you need to get monetized. You're leaving money on the table. You know, don't be stupid.
Yeah.
So he got monetized. He flipped the switch. So Angelo is saying 4,000 hours. I think that is right.
I think that's right. Yeah.
So he captured some of the money. It was a few $1,000s for a video that ended up getting, 12 million views or something. Now, granted, a lot of that viewership was in India, which and I know you know this, but the revenue per view, it varies based on where you're at in the world, where your audience is. So it's lower in India than it is in a lot of other places. But even still, like I think most people would imagine you'd make way more revenue from that, which you would if it was a US audience or UK, but still. So all that's to say, I got into it and I knew how like whacked out the numbers were.
No, for sure.
Yeah. But I don't know, man. I feel like with what you're doing with the high production levels, I mean, what about like sponsorship or something, man? Like there's got to be something there that people are interested in.
I'll tell you this. This is kind of interesting.
Just to make it sustainable is all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I when I was doing what I thought was supposed to... There was like in the beginning, I was just kind of doing what was fun for me. Like I was like, I really got I got a ton of like fulfillment out of taking like a clean slate arcade 1-up and then making it into something else. Like that was super exciting. And it's like, it's like any project that you do, whether it be a home project or whatever, you feel like there's a sense of gratification when you're done. Like I did that. You're proud of yourself. And so I didn't even think people would want to see that stuff. I really didn't. It was my buddy. He goes, dude, have you ever thought about like it was when 1-up, like no one, maybe like a couple people had like, promoted it or whatever. But he's like, you should probably do that. So anyway, so I did that, and that was really interesting, and people liked it. So I liked it, so I kept doing it. And then I got into this world of like, oh, I should do product reviews because that's what YouTubers do. They review products. And I started working with all these companies like there's all these like China companies like Banggood, and it's just a really stupid name. Banggood, and I can't remember all of them. There's like a million of them, like all these Alibaba type companies. Like yeah, Powkiddy. But then I felt like I was saying yes to all that, and then I felt like, oh my gosh, they were like hounding me, like, hey, we sent you the product like 3 days ago. Like, where's the video? And I was like, man, what the hell? And I mean, it was cool because yeah, in my mind, I was like, this is cool. I'm getting something for free, but they kept hounding me. And then after like a year of doing that, I'm like, you know what? Maybe that's not how I work best. Cause now I like being like on my own timeline. So I've thought about sponsorships and stuff, but I don't know. I kind of had a bad taste. And then I don't want to get into this cause it's like, everyone knows I kind of don't like them that much, but the At Games thing like totally rubbed me the wrong way when I worked with them. I felt like they were really
I knew
pushy.
That's where this was headed. That's why I'm laughing.
They were extremely pushy. And I don't know, maybe they're not like that anymore, but I felt like they were dictating to me what I was going to do. And I'm like, last I checked, this was my channel, like not yours. So I'm kind of doing you a favor by doing these videos. Like, can I do them the way I want to do them? And it was like, well, we really want you to do these. And so maybe I had a bad experience with that kind of stuff, but I agree with you. It's probably something I should look into, but I don't know. Maybe I will in the future or something, but
like an interstitial or something, man, that you just drop in the middle and you keep it moving. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't think it has to be as invasive as some of the stuff you dealt with. So you mentioned the cost of food, man. And I don't know if this is funny or not, but
Mason eats a lot too.
What's that?
Mason eats a lot too.
Well, so you were eating and you ate in a way that
I know where you're going to go with it.
I know where you're going to go. What the hell this is. All right, so we're this is going to be a clip from Chasing Nostalgia. I think it's episode 3. I should know that, but let's see what this is. And I don't know if the audio will come through, but we don't really need the audio.
Okay. I already know where you're going.
What the hell is that?
Dude, I don't know. When Mason edited that, he's like, why did you break the fry? I was like, dude, I have no clue why I did that. I don't do that normally. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Wildly disappointing. I was hoping there'd be like an explanation, like you have some, some weird OCD and this is your thing. No. Dude, so if you guys are watching, right, he's got the French fries breaks it in half. And it reminded me of an old Adam Carolla joke. If anyone ever used to listen to him on the radio or watch him or whatever. But he would say, you think you know how to walk until someone's got a camera on you and they tell you, hey, just walk casually off into the distance because we need B-roll footage. So it like what this is, right? This is probably B-roll footage. You have this footage so you can put it in, make it part of a larger narrative. And so it's just like, yeah, we're just eating. And then you just forget, like, how do I eat? Do I just tear French fries in half and shove them in my mouth? So I'm watching this, man, and I just started like laughing. And it was earlier and I hadn't noticed it otherwise. So
I can't tell you how many people have come to me and been like, dude, you eat French fries really weird. And so that's why as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh no, I know where he's going with this. I have no explanation for it, dude. The only thing I can think of is maybe I knew he was filming me and I was like nervous in that moment. Because that's what I figured. I was really nervous at that table, actually, believe it or not, because that was like a big deal to me. I'm sitting there with these people that are industry arcade and pinball people. And I'm not a pinball person, really. I mean, I just now started kind of getting into it. So it was a little intimidating. And I think people assume that because I have this like more outgoing personality that I'm just like that all the time. And in that moment, I was very like, I don't know. I felt nervous because I was like, oh, because Todd Tuckey to me was like a celebrity. He's like, he really is like an arcade celebrity. I was like, oh my God, I wanted to talk to him so bad, but I was super shy. So I don't know, maybe I broke it out of like, I don't know, dude. I wish I had a good answer for you.
That's kind of what I figured it was, to be honest. I figured it was just you were in the moment, you're getting footage, you've got to, okay, eat your food and then crack, right? See a shellfish or something.
What would I be? Yeah, like I'm eating lobster.
What exactly. That's all I could think of. Yeah.
That's awesome that you brought that up.
Well, you shouldn't have that imposter syndrome, man, because that's what that's called. I'm sure you've heard of it, but it's where this idea of like, oh, I'm in the middle of this thing. but I feel uncomfortable because someone else might have been doing it longer, or they've got a big, exciting name. Like you said, I mean, these are giants. But they probably look at you and they're like, "Hey, you're making content, and it's definitely mutual. You're bringing attention to the hobby, which is what they care about, right?"
Yeah, I'm kind of like, I don't know. I don't like in my mind, I don't think I don't know. I don't know what it was. I was just really, really shy at that moment. And so I don't know. That's the only thing. I'm trying to come up with a reason why. Maybe I'm just weird. I don't know. I really
No,
don't
man,
know.
that's all good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Do you feel like you've leveled up from going from a few different episodes now, and you've got them under your belt? Like, does it feel like you've accomplished something? You're building this kind of library of content?
I mean, in all honesty, the views aren't like going this way. They're kind of like one was low, then the next one was high, and the next one was
You
low. So
never
it's
know
like,
with YouTube when a series like that will the algorithm suddenly falls in love with it. A switch gets flipped. I mean, you don't know, because I've seen it happen before. It definitely does happen.
so I literally, Mason and I did something so crazy, and this is maybe not as interesting to people, so I won't spend a lot of time on it. But when we filmed the one that has the R3, which is that episode, the one
Yeah.
that one was, dude, in like 3 days of that being posted, it was dying. Like I was watching it die on on the analytics. I'm like, dude, we're screwed. Like I don't know what's wrong. And so I talked to Mason. I was like, dude, you know what? I feel like we need to do something different here. Like maybe we're not like, because it was just a picture of like me and like some arcades. I go and it said Pinball Expo. I'm like, but the episode's so much more than that. And so we like put our heads together. I'm like, let's come up with a hook. Like maybe I started looking at like Mr. Beast thumbnails, and it's always like his thumbnails are always like, it's not clickbait. He's baiting you to watch, but it's not clickbait because clickbait
Well,
would mean,
it's literal clickbait, but not in the bad way. Not in
yeah,
the way where it's
exactly.
bait and switch, but it's literally like
Yeah.
candy for your mouse. Like you want to do it. It's
Yeah, and he
hyper
gives
optimal.
you what he's saying he's going to give you. So I
Right.
was like, well, the hook is really the R360 because that thing really is this hundred something $1,000
Absolutely.
arcade. I was like, so why don't we just try that? And it was weird. I've never seen this. I've only seen it one other time, but you know as well as I do, when the trend starts going like this, it's YouTube's going to kill it. It was
Yes.
going like this. We changed the thumbnail, and it was like 24 hours later, it literally shot straight up. And so I'm like, we did it. Like we cracked the code. It worked in that moment. I don't know. It hasn't, there's only one other video that I've done that with where I've flipped the thumbnail and it actually saved it. But I was glad because to me, I was so proud of that episode and I really wanted people to watch it. But sometimes, like, your only opportunity to get, the only opportunity you have to catch someone's attention is the thumbnail and the title. And there's a million other videos that they could watch. So
Right.
I think if there's anything that's hard about making this kind of content is because I've told you, like, all the time we put into it, and if it didn't get a lot of views, it's just kind of a bummer because there's a lot of like passion behind it. And so, sometimes this latest one, I wanted it to do better, but it didn't. So I just got to kind of like see if I can learn something from that and move on to the next one.
Well, I
So
think you nailed it with needing a hook. Like I'm sure there are a million other ways to think about it, but I think about YouTube content in one of two buckets. One is there's a very obvious hook. There's something people are actively looking for. Like, I watch a lot of MMA, and so there's always a big story, and you see
yeah,
those YouTubers trot out their content to fit that story, and it pops. And there's just this endless cycling. In our world, or at least in my world, used to be your world. I know you're not as involved with it now, but the home arcade stuff, there often is no real hook week to week. It's super effing irritating.
yeah,
And so that's one side, is you have that hook. You have a built-in audience. They're going to YouTube. They're looking for something. The other option is you build up exciting content that's just has to stand on its own because there's no news headline prompting immediate interest. Like there was no big story about the R360 that week, right? Like it wasn't like everyone's looking
no,
for it. So you just have to find like, oh, it looks interesting. It clearly does. Like that was brilliant. Put that on the thumbnail because the thing looks insane. So it plays really well visually. But so those are kind of the two different types of hook. Does it stand on its own? But I feel like that second category is so much harder. Like I put out videos where I did it in a super quick snap because I knew all that mattered was if it was quick, because
Yeah.
otherwise people
It's
don't
not
care. If
news
there's going to
anymore,
be
right? Yeah.
exactly, so you got to get there fast. But then I'm editing it, it's all screwed up, like something's weird with the video or whatever, and I want to go back and fix it, but I know if I do and I take an extra 30 minutes, it's like Jesus, that plops. So I guess on both sides of that fence, YouTube
I
can
think
be
there's
really
pressure on both sides, right? Like you, in one sense, the news stuff is so time sensitive, and on mine, it's like on my end, if I'm doing the different, like the content where it's not newsworthy, I better have a good hook, or else like I may publish something that I put a ton of work into, and it might genuinely be a good video, but maybe the thumbnail just isn't interesting enough, and that stings a lot. Like that, I guess that's the one thing that's been the hard part for me to deal with, is that I could do a news video and it didn't do well, and I'll be a little bummed out, but I didn't invest
but
$3,000
you
to make
spent
it.
half an hour on it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Totally different.
So yeah, so there's a different kind of pressure with it. And I mean it's the same feeling though. Like you know how bummed out you get if there's a piece of news content and you're all excited about it and you put it out there and it doesn't do well. Like it's a disappointment because you're excited about it and it didn't turn out. So I mean, either way, I think that disappointing feeling is the same, no matter, even though one you put more time and money into, you know?
Yeah, yeah, but it's definitely got to be harder to trudge forward on. I have this creative vision. I want to do it. We're gonna make it happen. We're going to spend the money. I mean, what you're doing, right? Like we're going to push this through and we're going to find a way to make it work. I mean, I
Oh,
think those are two different views.
I've had conversations with Mason being like, I'm done with this. I'm not doing it anymore. Like literally I've had like, I was like hungry and just in a bad mood. And I was like, F it. We're not doing Chasing Nostalgia anymore. And he's like, what? I'm like, nope, we're not doing it anymore. And then like 5 minutes later, I'm like, all right, we're going to Ohio. We're going to do this.
We got a hook.
Yeah. So it is what it is.
Well, before we talk more about that, I want to chat about what I put on the thumbnail, the home arcade versus original, because I have a real dilemma in front of me. In the new house in the basement, for the first time, I'm gonna have room for original hardware if I go that route.
Yeah.
I went way over budget on this house, so man, the idea of me going out and buying a bunch of original hardware, it's like hard for me to fathom. But I'm gonna have to choose if I want to go that route or keep collecting the smaller cabinets. But my old basement, I didn't have a choice. Like the stair, I mean, I liked the area, but like getting stuff in and out was.
That setup looked pretty cool though, because didn't you have like a pool table in the middle and everything? Like that was pretty sick.
I did. Dude, I missed that setup, but like the ceiling was low. It was 7 feet. Plus, you had ductwork, which brought it lower in some spots. So it was perfect for home arcade, man. And I got the house right at the time when Arcade One Up hit, and I saw it, and I was like, hell yeah! That I didn't know what I was gonna do with this basement. Now I know.
Yeah.
So that's what got me into it. In the new spot, I'm gonna have a much taller basement. It's a walkout, so I can get stuff in and out without like if my foot slips, I'm not going to die under this arcade machine walking it down the stairs.
Yeah.
So I guess that's just kind of the discussion is sort of original hardware versus sticking in with the home arcade. And I wonder if you think home arcade's here to stay or not, because to this day, I can't figure out if I think like in 10 years, will this still be around? I don't know.
Dude, that's a really good question. I don't know either, because I actually originally thought, and this is when I was like gung-ho, full speed ahead. I love this stuff. I love the idea of it. I was like, this is going to be a fad. It's only going to last 24 months. And the reason why I thought that was because there had been fad products like that before. But then I thought about, like, I really started looking at Tastemakers as a company, and I was like, oh, this is a trendy toy company. So like, as soon as that trend's over, they find the next one and they kind of ditch the old one. So I thought, well, they're just going to make some quick money on it. And the first ones had their issues that we all know about. So I'm with you, man. I didn't think it was going to stick around. But if you asked me to answer, do I think it's going to be here 5 years from now? At this rate, I have no clue, because every time I think it's getting boring, they do something kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Like this XL thing, I don't love the way the Golden Tee looks, but I feel like that looks kind of more in line with, without the riser, it's looking a lot more like a real, like a bigger, more substantial thing.
The control panel height of that's not the right way to put it, but like the way the control panel protrudes from the cabinet to me looks very commercial. Yeah, there are a lot of design elements to it that look really pro.
I agree. So I don't know, man. I don't know where it's going to go, but getting into the hobby it's like a really difficult question to answer because it matters on like what excites you, I think. Because the problem that's always going to exist with this stuff is it's antique. It keeps getting older, so it's going to break. So it's like I've literally bought arcade machines that when I get them home, they worked when I was at the guy's house, and I brought it home and it was broke by the time I brought it home. Something rattled that caused a short. I turned it on and now I'm troubleshooting. So like, it's not all rainbows, but you have to like, I guess the thing is you have to 100% in your head be real with yourself that this is going to break. And am I excited about fixing it, or am I going to be like, I just want to play the game? Because if you just want to play the game, then I think that you just shouldn't buy them, because they absolutely break. I mean, before I started, my Street Fighter was having a problem. I'm like, oh crap! I was like, I can't not have the Street. So
dude, what do you mean? It can't be worse than my bedroom temporary office. Like, even if Street Fighter blew up and it was a crater, you'd been all right.
So
I think that's a good way to think about it, though, because to me, what does motivate me with my old basement was having a mini arcade. It wasn't any one particular title, although there were a few I really loved, but for the most part, it was just the 5. And so to do that with original hardware is tremendous undertaking, to have a lot of arcades and to keep up on them.
I mean, let's put it this way. I'll tell you a story that sucks. So I went and bought this arcade that used to be a Smash TV. There's a video of it on my channel. And it was, someone turned it into, you know what that 60-in-1 board is? It's like a multi-board that has
the JAMA 60-in-1 thing?
Yeah, that board.
Yeah.
So someone took an original Smash TV and turned it into that. It was probably an arcade owner at some point. He's like, hey, Smash TV isn't making money. Let's just make that a multi-cabinet thing. So that's a weird cabinet, first of all, to turn into a 60-in-1. So when I got it, everything was messed up. The monitor was flipped vertical instead of horizontal. And if I'm going to run Smash TV, I got it to be horizontal again. Everything was messed up. And I worked really hard to get that looking pretty nice. And my thought was, oh, I'm going to run, because Total Carnage is also one of those like,
twin sticks.
It's twin stick games. So I was like, I'm going to run both of them, and I'm going to put this JAMA switcher, and it's going to be glorious. I put the JAMA switcher in, and these boards are like $500. They're not cheap. The arcade boards, it blew one of the boards out. It blew the Smash TV board out. So now I'm like, and you know, they advertise these things. People use them all the time. And I called the guy that I bought it off of. He's like, yeah, I don't know, maybe, you know, I don't know what happened. Like, something happened. I'm sorry. I don't know. That was it. So now I'm like, so like there's
no warranty, in other words.
No, not at all. So like, I think the thing that you have to love in order to go that direction, unless we're talking about like, if you said, hey, I want to put something new in my, that's like commercial, like getting like an Incredible Technologies pedestal or something like that to play Golden Tee, like that's an awesome investment. And those things are going to last for a long time. You mount your TV on the wall. It's all commercial, it grades stuff. And so that lasts a long time. But anything that's older and antique like this, it's like, it's gonna break, you know what I mean? So you have to at least be like excited about fixing it one day. And if you're not, then I think that's like the deciding factor. Do you remember those? I don't know if you remember this, but this is actually a really funny story. Do you remember the guys? They posted a video about, they were very anti Arcade 1-Up, and all the Arcade 1-Up people went and attacked them. They were this,
man, I vaguely remember that. Was that like a couple years ago? Like, it was a while ago. What were their names?
It was an arcade called Free Play, and it was in Richardson, Texas. And these guys made a video just trashing Arcade 1-Up. And the whole community went over there, and they were like, screw you guys. But their attitude was very different. They were like, oh, these Arcade 1-Ups they're crap. It's making a mockery out of real arcades. And so they took this idea that the two can't coexist. So they were kind of offending people, because they're like, your stuff sucks and you're stupid for buying it. And that was their attitude. But the funny thing is I wrote as a joke, because I was still very much involved in the community. You know those apps where you can write fake text messages?
Oh, yeah. Where you have a screenshot then.
I made one that said Free Play Richardson. And I was like, hey, it was something like, hey, I bought a 1-Up. And the guy's like, well, you're an idiot. I was like, well, that's not very nice. He's like, go F yourself. And I put it on Twitter. And then it got back to those guys.
Oh,
so those guys were like, those guys in a live stream were like, hey, and I don't know what this fake nonsense. And I was like, I even said, you know, people don't read stuff in the tweet. I'm like, this is not a real tweet. But I was trying to poke some fun, because they really offended a lot of people in the community. I think that the thing is, to me, my attitude now is whatever you decide to do, it's got to be right for you. And if you enjoy playing the game in that form factor, then that's all good. And it doesn't mean that like, oh, the people with real arcades are better. It's just they're interested in that. They like that idea of restoring arcades or working on arcades or whatever. It's just like the people that do DIY stuff. They tend to want to tinker, you know, like if you look at like B Kong's channel, he loves tinkering with everything. So like for him, he buys all these one-ups and then he basically makes them something completely different at the end of the day. So, but that's what he likes to do, you know, but there's something to be said about, I bring it home, I build it, I turn it on and I play it. Right. You know, I mean,
and I wanted to turn it on times 20, you know, so it couldn't, if you factor that out and you say, all right, I'm going to repair 20 machines, like that's bonkers. With those guys though, I remember getting the sense that they felt like this was going to be competition and let's just shut this down. Like that's what that felt like to me. Are we talking about the same people?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the attitude it was one of like that it was a bad thing. But then if you talk to Todd Tuckey, Todd over at TNT, actually, he's like, this was great. It sort of helped reinvigorate the interest in real arcade machines because he said a portion of the audience would buy these and then want more, which is fine.
And of course, that's what happened, right? Like, how could it have gone any other way?
Yeah, so he's like he actually welcomes art. He's like, look, I maybe they're not for me, but the fact that customers are buying them and then going, you know what, maybe I do want like a real one, or I want a pinball machine or something like that. So I think it only helps the hobby, but there's a lot of people that are stuck in their ways because the hobby, think about it, some of these guys have been in this hobby since like the 80s, the early 80s. And so they kind of, I don't know, some people just aren't as open to, you know how it goes, right? It's like the old guard versus the new guard. And it's going to be people that hold on to stuff for whatever reason. They just can't accept that there's something else out there.
There's something about gaming that especially becomes an identity, you know, and it's good in a lot of ways. Like it becomes our identities. But once you start identifying with it and then there's this new thing that comes in, I think it's easy to get mad about that. But I've always wondered if, we talked about this a little bit before the show, but I always wondered if any of these home arcade makers would try to grow to commercial. And obviously they've made little tiny dabbles in that direction. I still don't know if At Games ever released their commercial pinball
thing.
And I don't know if it was meaningfully different. Like the information they released on it was thin. So I couldn't tell if they upgraded the controls or anything, or if it was really going to stand up to like bar play, for example. But I don't know if that happened or if it's going to happen. Arcade 1Up, I know, did the thing in the Miami, whatever, sports ball stadium. I don't know what fucking teams are down there, but you know what I'm saying. But they have a bunch of arcades out, but I think that's just their 3/4 scale stuff, right? Like that's not a different
that's what it looked like when they did that video. Yeah. It didn't look like, but you know, you bring up a good point because so this was kind of interesting. So I got invited to go to the Amusement Expo in Vegas last week. And so that's a place that you go as like a barcade owner or an arcade owner. And it's all of the bigger companies like Raw Thrills. And they're trying to just like, you go there to see what games you want to buy for your arcade or barcade. And what I thought was crazy is I kind of was like, all right, I'm going to go into this with the mindset that I own an arcade. And I want to ask them like, what does this cost? And how long does it take for me to get my return on investment? Because think about it. If I opened up a barcade, if I opened up a barcade tomorrow, I would have to invest in new machines and potentially old ones if I wanted retro ones too. And I was shocked at like the different answers you get for ROI. Because if I'm a small place, like if you're a Dave & Buster's, I'm sure that machine pays for itself really fast because you have like a lot of traffic going in and out of your place. But I was shocked at some of the answers I would get back. Like, oh yeah, you should have this paid back in 2 months. I was like, this machine's 20 grand. Like, what if I have a really small arcade? And I was expecting them to be like, oh yeah, let me crunch the numbers on like a smaller arcade with less foot traffic. Yeah. And they really didn't know the answer. So imagine if like 1UP made an affordable commercial. Like, let's say I'm going to open up a new barcade and 1UP decides, hey, we're going to have a commercial line. And it was like a couple $1,000s for a machine versus 10,000. Like, I think there'd be some legitimate people interested in, even though they're not retro machines, but I don't know if the barcades around here, it's weird. Like some of them are geared toward younger people and they kind of turn it into like a nightclub at night, but it still has the games. I don't know that they care so much about that being an original game,
Right.
but if it looked retro, they'd be fine, you know? So
I
I think
have
there might,
two. Well,
yeah.
I think you're onto something. I have two barcades in my area. One is what you just described. The crowd there, in my opinion, largely doesn't care. It's retro vibes, and I don't think they care about the authenticity of the hardware, which is really ironic because that place has a killer selection of very expensive cabs. They have a great Nintendo cabinet selection.
Oh,
The
awesome.
condition of everything is incredible. So I don't know who they've hired to do the restoration work, but dude, it's really impressive. And they have a huge floor. And I don't imagine the people that go to because it's kind of trendy. I don't know that they care that much. And I think to your point, they'd be fine with playing newer manufactured stuff. And then I have another barcade, the one I really go to more often, and it's just a little more old school, a little dingier. The drinks are really cheap, so that's cool with me, right? I'm not
Yeah.
trying to pay for someone's rent bill for their corporate thing. And what I noticed there for the first time, just in the last couple months, they've introduced modern games. It's I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I had never heard of it. I think it's called Killer Queen.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a it,
Killer Queen.
okay, so you know what I'm talking about. I
Yeah.
don't know what the hell this game is. It almost, I mean, I don't know if it's like a joust type game or what. I didn't even watch anyone play it. I
It's
didn't
very
understand how
similar.
it worked.
Yeah,
Okay, so
it's very similar to that. I had never heard of it either, and one of our corporate offices when we before COVID, they have an arcade in one of the offices, and I saw like all these engineers because they have them there so the engineers can take breaks and kind of feel like it's
it's
basically
Silicon
to
Valley life
yeah
and stuff.
well it
Yeah.
is, it's in Silicon Valley, so it's to entice
Mhm.
people to stay and all that stuff. But I saw them all playing. They were super excited about this Killer Queen game. I'm like, what is the deal? Like, what is Killer Queen? And they all loved it. I still really haven't played it much, but it looks like it's a I can't remember the name. There's another game they made called like Cosma something. They have like two games that company made, and they're both like pretty popular, but they're probably expensive. I'm sure they got to be like, I don't know, probably 10 grand or something to buy that thing, or
I
five
wouldn't be
grand.
surprised.
Yeah.
And it's the only other than pinball, which they have, everything else is free play. They brought these in and they're charging money. So it's funny to watch barcades in my area. I know every area is different, but here barcades were all about free play and then they're going to make the money on drinks.
So
But
they do charge to play them though. It's like
but
per
for well,
play.
for Killer Queen they do. So
Hmm.
it's almost coming full circle. They're getting back to an original arcade business model of you're going to pay me to play, but they started out as play whatever you want. Now, if you want to play their vintage games, you still can for free, but some of that floor space is eaten up by multiple Killer Queen cabinets. So it's the arcade and barcade landscape is evolving too, which is weird. And I think you're right. I think there's opportunity for, and I don't know if that game's pinball is the answer or not. I don't know if pinball is really the place to go first, but for some kind of commercial arcade. But man, I read a stat, and I don't know if this is true, and you might know because you know a lot more about arcade history than I do. I read that today the number of home arcade units that have been sold is more than all the commercial cabinets that have ever been sold in the past. Does sound like that could be true to you in
I don't
terms of
know.
the
I
three,
mean,
4 million cabinets that have been sold that are modern home arcade stuff?
I really don't know because I mean I look at like the numbers that if I look at like the numbers that Stern puts out on their pinball machines, they're pretty low. Like they'll do a production run of like 500 machines or 1,000 machines sometimes. I don't really know like that. Well, I mean that the baby Pac-Man they released 7,000 of those. So like the numbers, I don't know. Actually, I don't really know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't think that they've sold more. I bet they sold more arcade one-up Pac-Mans than real Pac-Mans at this point. I bet
To
that's
everyone's
true. I
chagrin.
bet that's true. I mean,
Yeah,
shit, they've sold a ton of Pac-Man. I
yeah.
don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't really know the answer to that.
But if it is bigger, my point is why even bother going into commercial, man? Like it's just, you know what I mean? It's small.
Yeah.
Each even a big city, at least in my I'm in a medium-sized city and we've got less than half a dozen barcades, I think. So it's not huge.
It seems like the shipping factor is like really key to keeping the cost down. You know what I mean? Like they don't have to they don't have to put it on a pallet. It literally just fits in a box. So I think if they went commercial, their whole entire, like, all the logistics of getting machines here completely changes. I don't know, maybe it's not even feasible for them to do, you know, because they look at what their margins are on these like 3/4 scale ones. Because I mean, I can't even believe, I don't know if how much you looked at the Golden Tee thing. I saw in order to, I saw John said this somewhere, and I don't know if he's just saying it. Sometimes he says stuff that's accurate, and sometimes he says stuff just like,
which makes it super difficult to make videos
yes.
about anything he said. Because
Yeah.
I've made, and God bless him, man, but I've made videos about stuff he said, and then 3 weeks later, it's like proven wrong, and it's like, oh, you should have known. Like, dude, I'm just taking the company representative at his word. What the hell else
And
am
I
I
love
supposed
John
to
and
do?
everything, but yeah, he said that the reason why, so on the XL, the reason why there's that like little panel part in the front that kind of like flares out with a control panel is the reason why that wasn't one piece is because they had to be able to fit it in a box. And so that's at least what he said. But it seems like that's the factor all the time. It's like, can we get it in a box
Right.
and flat pack it? And if we can, then we're good. So I don't know, but yeah, maybe it'll be interesting to see if they go that way. Cause I don't remember who I was talking to. I don't remember who I was talking to, but we were going back and forth on what titles that Arcade won a peasant on. And we went and we looked at like the top 50 most popular arcade games. And I was shocked at how many they actually have ticked off
Yeah,
that
it's a
list.
freakishly large number.
Yeah. But I mean, after that's done, I mean, they've proven they can keep rehashing titles and people will keep buying them in different form
Right.
factors. So, but there's still a decent amount of ones that I think are popular enough that they could still keep the excitement going. So I don't know, man. I wish I knew the answer to what it's going to look like in the future. Because the one thing I will say is there's going to be a lot of inventory on like OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace if people
doubt.
decide, you know, 10 years down the road, the wives are like, okay, you've taken up 2 rooms in the house. Like, I'm done.
Right.
Like, get these things out of here.
Right.
You know?
Which I feel like the ball could drop on that like any minute. I've got multiple friends that I haven't had this conversation with anyone, but I could about guarantee their wives wouldn't let them have that. I wonder how much bigger Arcade Run Up to Market would be, or at Games or anyone, if wives were more accepting of this. Like that has to be a key limiting factor, hilariously.
Well, I mean, and even with these, it's the same thing, right? Because I told my wife, stuff started to get out of control here. She's like, where else are machines going to go? And I was like, okay, fine. Let's like, I don't want my hobby to be intrusive on you. And like at some point I'm abusing things a little bit, like the space. So I said, I will keep 6 in here and anything else will be in the garage. And I will not exceed that because I had stuff upstairs. I still had like one up stuff upstairs. It was kind of crazy. And when she moved in, when we before we got married, there was an arcade in my bedroom. So she's like, dude, like seriously, there's an arcade in the bedroom too. And it was like a DIY kit that I had built a long time ago. And so like I had to at least reflect and go, is it really fair for me to have a freaking arcade in the bedroom?
Is this getting
like,
cringe?
yeah,
Is it
like
not?
that's kind of cringe. That's so weird.
Yeah.
So
I don't know, man. Don't get me started. Some women have their purse collections, their shoe collections, and I've yet to meet a guy who has an opinion on that. It's like, my wife with her purse collection or whatever. You know, I feel like they kind of get to have their stuff. We leave them alone, but I don't know.
I'm not even gonna get into that conversation.
We don't have to go there. I'm just floating that out there. To me, the XL cabinet's actually really exciting because I think it's an overdue evolution. I'm kind of wondering if we're going to get, like, if any of the other companies are going to follow that trend, like a larger iArcade. I mean, at Games Legends Ultimate is already really big, so I don't think it needs to be bigger, but just trending toward closer to original hardware. And like you said earlier, some people would hear that and wince and whatever. And I know nothing's ever going to be original hardware, but, you know, move in that direction where it feels a little bit more legitimate, however you want to put it.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, obviously I haven't played on an XL, but I'm thinking just the weight alone. I mean, the weight alone, it's like 100 pounds. So you're talking a lot more weight. So it should feel more, you know, some people complain that, it doesn't, you know, to them, it doesn't feel as stable because it's, you know, less materials and they're lighter and stuff. So, I mean, I would think at 100 pounds, like that's going to feel pretty substantial versus, you know, the 3/4 ones, but it'll be interesting. I'm sure like part of them, they're probably wondering like, when we do this, is this going to be a hit? But the one thing, and you've talked about this, the one thing I'm a little confused about is like, why is it XL and Pro? Like, I get that the Pro is going to have
So
nicer stuff in
confusing.
it, but I don't know. But to me, I think if you were really wanting to put, depending on what they come out with and what the quality looks like, it seems like the Pro would be a cool Pro or XL would be a cool addition to the newer space, you know?
That's where I think I'm going to go. The question is, are they going to keep coming with pros? I assume, but I think the only
Yeah.
one that's been confirmed is Killer Instinct. Are they going to eventually release a lot of those titles in a pro line? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I guess if it takes off, right? Like, what part of
That's
you
probably what it really is. Yeah.
you always get into these like conversations I really enjoy where you're like, you know, you'll think about what, like, kind of put yourself in their shoes. Like, there's a board meeting somewhere where they're talking about, hey, like, depending on, this is kind of a little bit of a beta test for us. We're going to float these things out there and we're going to make like a couple thousand of them. But if this takes off, like, we'll probably make this. I can't help but feel like these things like Pro are a little bit of a science experiment to see what the adoption looks like.
That would explain a lot, and especially the trial ballooning with the XL, the Pro, not having really clear branding. But you have a marketing background, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I don't. I ended up in marketing, so I can say now I sort of do now,
but
but I
you do
didn't.
it in your day job, right? Isn't that part of your
Yeah, but I
role?
didn't like take marketing in school. It was just
Who
like,
cares?
yeah.
Who cares about that, dude? No, that's fine. See, you're too worried about, like, I don't know if it's legit, dude. It's legit. Don't worry about it. I got you.
All
It's
right, cool.
but
Yes, I'm a
doesn't that drive you
marketeer.
bonkers that they do XL and Pro at the same time? Like, doesn't that
They're
really confuse what a
terrible.
higher tier is?
I don't know if they think it's terrible, and I hate to say this because I was very close at one point with David McIntosh, and I used to talk to him pretty regularly, and I think he's a great guy. But I think they really make it hard to be a content creator for them because so much of it becomes your own speculation on why they did this or that, because they kind of do things and you're like, well, if you knew Pro was coming, like, where is XL like here to stay? Was it just the Shaq thing? And then you try, it's just, sometimes I just wish they'd be a little bit more forthcoming and say, yeah, this is our roadmap. And we feel like these are the customers for this. These are the customers for that. And the reason why we have all these is because boom, 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 boom. And then
Right.
but we all speculate. I feel like everyone in the community, but
Yes.
they have to speculate because one up doesn't make it clear who the audience is for each system,
Dude, even as
except
a
for the baby cade
consumer.
because the word baby's in it. So
Yeah. Well, yes, there's no brand confusion with Baby Cade.
it's a baby
Actually, I
cade.
thought the reaction to Baby Cade was kind of funny. Like, some people thought it was really cool and they wanted to mod it and it was funny and it was a meme, which it is a meme, let's be clear. And then other people were like mad it existed, but I don't know. I think it's cool. But I'm with you. And as a consumer, and I think, geez, I haven't bought anything new because I don't have room. Once I move out, probably in August, I'm gonna have to decide: do I want to buy the new Golden Tee? Do I want to wait for an XL or whatever? So yeah, it's tough as a content creator, 100%. I'm always speculating, like you said, that's what you have to do. But imagine trying to spend your hard-earned money on this stuff, and for the casual consumer, just sees it at Walmart. They're not thinking about this; they don't care. But for like somebody in
Yeah.
between who is thinking, like, here's what my game room will look like. They're having conversations with their wives like you've had. They can have this many arcades. They have this much space in their house. Those are real world considerations. That's legitimate. And then it's like, well, Jesus, what do I buy? Like, I don't know if we're going to get, will I get one XL and then it goes away? Do I want to try to build a collection around it? It's weird.
Well, and that would be that, dude, that right there, like that would be, we can only assume that they're going to make more because they now have two different games that fit that bill. So you're like, oh, well, they must be making more of these. But I wish they would kind of share that. Like, oh yeah, this is going to be for the customer. Like, how hard would it be for them to go, even if it's just like a marketing video, to go, we're really excited about these new XL lines because this is for that customer who the riser seemed kind of quirky and they really wanted that sleek, more official
Dude, a
arcade
press
look.
release could accomplish this. You don't
Yeah.
even need a video.
And then, yeah, exactly. And then, and then you as a consumer go, oh, okay, that's actually kind of me. Like, you're speaking to me. So that's cool. I have
Right.
these new XLs to look forward to. I don't know. That doesn't seem, this is like marketing 101 stuff. So like, I hate if like John or David ends up watching this, I'm sorry. It's just my honest opinion is like, just be a little bit more forthcoming with what the plans are. So then that way, you know, I can't imagine that they're not sharing plans because they think someone's going to copy it. They're so far ahead of everybody else that I
Right.
don't even think no one has proven that they can kind of like compete with them. So I can't imagine they're withholding information in fear that their competition's going to copy them. You know what I mean? I think, I don't know.
Why do you think that that is the part where they're so far ahead and no one's really copied them? Because to my eye, the only company that's really copied them was Unico. And
Yeah.
everyone else really did something very different. Man, do you have any idea why that is? Because to me, I always thought that was confusing. You got multiple millions of cabs sold. You've got you planted a flag here that the home arcade market is really substantial. I'm
Yeah.
surprised there's not more money, more vendors chasing that market. And
Well,
anyone who does try to get into it does something radically different. Like iArcade, it's hard to talk about at games because they came out earlier
yeah.
and they wanted to go in a different direction. But iArcade came out later and reacted to the market as it was, and they said, "Hey, we're going to do something totally different." Why do you think nobody's gone that direction? The arcade one up's gone. To me, that's confusing.
The only thing I can think of, and this is me just like listening, this is me listening to John D and believing everything that he says, right? If I go by what he
Famous last
says,
words.
if I go by what he says, then he has a stranglehold on the licensing part of it, and that's why the others can't compete. And that if you do just a little bit of research, you can kind of make that true by going, all right, who else has the big name titles? And literally no one does. So
Right.
I mean, there's some, right? You can like splatter in a couple titles like, oh, hey, you got Bad Dudes over here, or you got, Burger Time over there. But again, those are still like good titles, but they're not like the, oh my gosh, the mass appeal. So I think it's a licensing. I think he really figured out, I think between him and Baccarat, who probably because of the toy business probably just knows this stuff cold, and they're out selling the other companies when it comes to securing the licenses. That's the
And
only thing
probably
I can think of.
outselling shelf space, but that's probably
Yep.
easy to do once those licenses are there.
Yeah.
Because that's what seems to be driving the shelf space.
And there's a little bit of rumor out there around like,
Oh, I
and
don't know about any rumor. Tell me, Ralph. What's the
so
rumor?
this is like all speculation, and I have no idea whether this is true, but and I do not claim to be anything of a licensing expert. As a matter of fact, I just know what
Same
he's
here.
really told me. But he would almost lead you to believe, and again, don't know if this is true, I'm just kind of like taking information. He would lead you to believe that he has like exclusivity on certain licenses. So if someone else wants to do it, they've got to pay royalties to one up to do it. That seems kind of crazy to me, but that's been floated out there that's actually factual. I find that hard to believe, but that if it is, then it makes sense. Like why you don't see IA Arcade have Street Fighter, or something that like IA Arcade has Mortal Kombat. Because I mean, I don't know.
Well, they have Sega titles, but they're different Sega
but there's
titles.
certain Sega titles, right? Like they don't
Yeah.
have the bigger Segas. It's almost like they
Right.
have. Although, like you could argue, Space Harrier is a really cool game, but it's not like a.
Yeah, I actually love Space Harrier.
Yeah, it's a really cool game, but you don't see like collectors being like, "Oh my god, I gotta have a Space Harrier." You see collectors saying, "Oh my gosh, I gotta have Afterburner." "Oh my gosh, I gotta have Outrun," or the big Sega titles. So, honestly, dude, if it almost feels like what he says is true in that regard, that he's got a stranglehold on the licenses. He doesn't say it exactly like that, but he leads you to believe that he does. And if you look at the evidence, it kind of seems like he might.
Yeah.
So
They've talked about working with iArcade on the licenses. I wonder if that's what he was referring to, because I wondered what the hell would that mean. I don't remember even where that was said. It was on some stream somewhere. But
yeah, well, and
I
it's
wonder
funny
if-
because
well, go ahead. Yeah.
no, it's funny because he's kind of gone into like, I feel like he gets put into social media jail a lot, right? Like,
You don't say. Why
Well,
would
he-
that be? No particular reason.
yeah, like I think they tried to, I know they hired that new CMO, and I think he tried to lock things down a bit and be like, guys, we're a little loose with the info. Like you're kind of, some stuff you share is true, and some stuff is like you're hyping everybody up, but it's not maybe on the roadmap for a couple of years. Let's like chill out on the social media stuff. So I feel like he goes in and out of jail, but when he's out of jail, he gives people enough nuggets to build these crazy stories. And sometimes those crazy stories turn out to be true,
A
So
lot of times they turn out to be
yeah,
true.
they do. A lot of times they do.
Yeah.
So
Huh.
He's
Yeah,
like a
man. I
blessing
mean,
and a curse for them, I feel like, at the same time, right? You either love him or hate him.
yeah, but they're driving the conversation. I mean, I kind of wonder where things are going for iArcade. I mean, imagine if you're them, you hit the ground running. You have a limited amount of time to build a really big audience of people to download these games. And again, total speculation, like you said, but been implied that they're working with Arcade One Up and licenses in some way. That does that mean paying them for some of the titles they have, or there's crossover? Who the hell knows? But
Yeah.
imagine like you're trying to work in this environment and the licenses are all locked up and you can't get to what you want. And I mean that's got to be overwhelmingly challenging. But it would explain why everybody else is so extremely distant, despite all of One Up's flaws and goofiness. And like you said,
Yeah.
they don't roll out marketing plans very well. You don't really know what's coming next year. It's hard to build your arcade around them, but you do anyway because they bring the cabinets that other people want. And there's really nowhere else to get them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because there's this one story I heard that I have no idea whether it's legitimate or not, but it was about like I don't even know if I can even I don't even know if I should even share it. I don't know if it's one of those like I shouldn't share stories, but I'll kind of like maybe keep it a little more high level. But the story went something like that that At Games was going to be the first to market at Walmart, and for some reason or another, I don't know if it was like the way they designed it, the floor space, like whatever it was, wasn't quite good, like within the Walmart guidelines. So they kind of like passed on it. And I heard that like One Up sort of just by luck of the draw, like the way they developed it, made it so optimal for Walmart's shelf space that it just became like a, oh my God, it was like a no brainer. They're like, yeah, we're interested in this arcade stuff, but like we need it to be shelf optimized because that stuff's the floor real estate's so expensive. I have no idea if there's any legitimacy to that, but but because of that, I feel like it's sort of like, I don't know, At Games sort of just their whole way they present their product and everything is just so different that I just, that's that nostalgia factor that One Up capitalized on. And I don't, even though I know I poke fun at Games a lot. They actually have a pretty good, like their system is well built. It has a lot of options.
It
It's like
definitely is well, though, yeah.
you can do whatever
Especially
you
for the
want with it.
price.
Yeah. But I think they lack the mainstream appeal because they don't have the licensing for the bigger games. But those that have the will can just sideload it. But I think One Up knows that the majority of the audience just wants to turn it on and have it work. So even if that's just, even if it's literally just dragging a file onto a USB drive, for some people, they don't even want to do that. They're like, look, that sounds complicated. Like, I just want to buy it and play Street Fighter. You know what I
Well,
mean?
you
So,
skip the part where some people don't even have a PC at home.
yeah,
So
or
how are
just
you
don't,
even going
yeah.
to do that? They just
Yeah.
have their phones. Like if you're that casual a consumer, and there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, you're not going to be sideloading squat. You're not
I
going
mean,
to do
think about
that.
if Apple iPhone was super complicated. Like, think about if like the iPhone was like super complicated when it came out. They would never have the user base they have. Like
Yeah.
they have actually technologically, like their stuff is not as technology as I can't talk right now. They're not as
It's late.
advanced as Android. Android always has all the features before Apple. Always. Apple just copies them and makes it easy to use for like the general audience. So like that's kind of One Up. Like their stuff isn't even as good as everyone else, but they don't have to be because they've nailed the ease of use factor. So it appeals to a wider audience. That's my take. That's completely my opinion, but some people take that opinion and spin it into like, oh, he's an only a fanboy of that thing, and I'm like, I'm just talking about it from a business perspective. That's why I think they win over the others.
Well, let's talk
And
about At Games for a minute because I've been wondering, related to what you're saying, where they can go next. I feel like they've given away so much value in the sense that you can sideload stuff, you can run coin ops, you can do all these things. It's a
yeah,
full size cabinet. You can buy add-on expansions like the 4-player control panel. You don't need to go buy another cabinet. So like why would someone buy another Legends Ultimate? I feel like even though what they've done is cool and they've given the consumer a lot of value, I wonder if they've cannibalized their own audience. They've got this limited world of people that are going to buy this cabinet. and they're not coming back for cabinet 2 or 3. They'll come back for pinball. They might come back for racing cabinet.
Yeah, I
But
agree with you on
where
that
do they
racing
go
thing.
next? Yeah, and feel free to talk about the racing cabinet if you want, because that saga, man, it cracked me up. But
Uh,
I just wonder where they go next.
I think you just said it. I think they have to figure out how to expand. I mean, because like, what does a like what could they improve on it? I mean, they have a 4-player control panel. They have a bigger screen, so they can play modern games. They can play retro games. You can hook a PC up to it. Like it's literally the everything. It's basically the equivalent of what they did. I think they did this in a very smart way. I think they looked at the business and said, "What's out there? There's Arcade One Up." That's servicing the person that wants the one game, easy to use, or whatever, 4 games, whatever they have on it. And then there's this big market of people that build their own cabinet. Like they order the wood and it comes and they build it. You know, it's a DIY kit, and then they have to build their own PC and do all that. I think PK was like, let's just be the easy DIY thing where, yeah, they don't have to learn MAME or any of that nonsense and build their PC because we're just going to make it easy. So they just built really like an easy DIY kit because at face value, it's not a DIY kit. It comes built in with games, but when you
Right.
scratch under the surface just a little bit, you can do all this other stuff. It was very smart. And
Yeah.
I mean, Rec Room Rec Room Masters closed last year. They closed their doors, so there's
Right.
less DIY people out there. So naturally, maybe they'll gravitate towards something like an At Games because it's there. It kind of looks full
Or they
size.
already
So
have. I mean, my guess is they
yeah,
already have.
yeah. So I think they have a good product, but I think they're going to still lack that. They're going to lack the mass appeal that OneUp has, and I think OneUp also, even though we don't believe they put a lot of money in marketing, but not the marketing that we're talking about. They put a lot of dollars in like brand awareness, where we want them to do the other stuff too, like the spec sheets and the press
What's
releases.
crazy about that is all those things are free, right? Putting
Yeah.
together a press release costs literal no dollars if you have marketing people on your team, which they do, or you pay a pro service to write it for
Yeah, totally.
$250. Like it's nothing. The brand deals with Shaq and some sports arena, like that's a lot of money. So you're right. They spend a lot on marketing, and I don't know. Yeah, that's a head scratcher.
Yeah, and I think that's why the name has become such a. I would love to have a crystal ball and look into the future. I was talking to actually, there's someone in your chat right now. I was having a conversation with them the other day. I'm like, how long do you think this is going to last? Just out of curiosity, like, is it going to fizzle out? And no one seems to know the answer to that. I don't want it to. I think it continues to draw awareness, but it's like
For sure.
at some point like I think they're banking on everything being online and these big online communities being built, but I completely don't think that's going to happen. And the reason why I don't is because their target audience is guys like us who have jobs, who have kids, who have potentially wives and kids, like so so your time is limited. So to coordinate, it's hard enough to coordinate meeting up with friends from time to time. So like now I got to coordinate playing an online game with my friend, and oftentimes my availability is different from their availability. So I don't think that like online is going to be this huge thing. I think people will casually do it, but it's not going to be. Yeah, it was super dimensional. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think they believe it's going to be this like huge thing, but I think it will be popular, but not to the degree they think it's going to be.
Well,
Do
it's
you? I mean, do you think there's going to be these like? I mean, look at like the Big Blue. You go into the lobby. It's not like there's hundreds of people hanging out in there waiting to play.
well, let me tell you my 2 comments on that. My game room right now is so hilariously depressing. So I told you in the beginning, what I like about having this stuff is the vibe of you walk into your
Oh,
game room,
totally.
basement, wherever it is. Yeah, so you got your vibe. I have anti-vibe right now, dude. Like my basement in this apartment is not vibing. So I don't go down there and play. I actually haven't touched, I don't think, a one up since I moved, except for maybe my X-Men review. And, I'm just playing, either emulating or playing Xbox stuff or whatever. I have other things I play, but um, to me, if the vibe's not there, it's just not worth anything. So for that reason, I haven't been online on Big Blue hardly at all. And I guess I did the Big Blue review, so a little bit, but I'm not surprised. I've heard that it's tumbleweeds. When you think
It's not
about
always,
online,
but
what's that?
I said no. Sorry, what you're saying? What do I think
Oh
about
no,
what?
no, you're good. you think about online games with big communities. I mean, you have entire countries that are like known to have youth populations that play certain games, like real time strategy back in the day, less so now, but battle royale games and whatever, the list goes on. But for some people, it's like hours a day. So I think you're right that there's not really a lot of people on the planet where arcade gaming are hours a day every day. However, 2-3 million cabinets sold, and I recognize they're not all online connected, and most
Yeah.
of them probably aren't. I don't know, man. I feel like that's enough that you should be able to jump into a lobby and get in with a couple people. But if you're saying right now Big Blue largely is empty, then I mean the proof is there then that you're
I
right.
mean, it depends. Like, it depends on time. I actually don't have it anymore, but when I did have it, there still weren't. I mean, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. There still were a lot that weren't shipped yet. So, I mean, there could be that. I mean, actually, Super Dimensional has it, so maybe he can comment since I know he has one. Maybe he can comment on if he goes into a lobby. Is there a ton of people there? But and I gotta commend the communities trying to build sort of like hype around. Let's do competitions. Let's
Right.
make a thing about it. So there's like the community's trying to build its own thing. But when I went to that amusement expo just recently, everyone is trying to do this. But like these are because I look at even modern platforms struggling to do it. Like there's a company that was out there. It was called Varbox. It was this really cool. It was like a VR appliance almost. It was basically like a not a pedestal, but I don't know what to call it. A kiosk. It was like this VR kiosk, and they became really popular in Japan. So they'll have like I could be an owner and I'll buy 4 of these kiosks, and everyone puts on their VR headset, and us 4 are on a team against another 4 players, and it's basically like it's not every man for himself. Like we've got to kill all of them, and then if
Is
we
it
do, we win.
FPS? Like what kind of game is it?
It sort of so like it's a first person shooter, but to move you teleport. So like I point my gun, like let's say I see a guy
Because they
across the
don't want
way.
to get the motion sickness. That was probably their answer for that.
Um, maybe, but like if there's a guy across the way and I see him and I'm like ducking around something, I just point my gun at like a teleport box, and all of a sudden like I could be behind him and like shoot him.
Huh.
It's
Interesting.
super cool. They even have like monetary payouts. Like if we win and we become the top team in the nation that week, like they'll pay us like 4 grand or 5 grand. But
Wow.
but like they even said, hey, we are struggling. I mean, they're trying to sell their stuff, so they weren't like too super forthcoming. But you could tell like in Japan they were able to nail it and get the audience, but they're trying to build the US audience, but they don't have as many units out there, so it's a little bit of
Yeah.
a struggle. So I don't know. I think if they can build it, like if they do Marvel versus Capcom 2, which is like a fighting game that's so popular and so many people love it.
Do you think that community will accept though the hardware that they're
I
going to
don't know.
release?
That's
That's what
that's the
I
other.
kind of assume they won't. I know they've got Justin Wong and stuff, and for the record, as a buyer, dude, I don't care because I'm so shit at fighting games. Like, I hope the fighting community go away. Like, I can't play with y'all. I can't hang. So I'm not saying this in any kind of snobbish perspective, but why would they bother with basically a novelty hardware?
I mean, that's a question, right? Like the biggest someone in the community that's huge that could change the game for one up is like, let's say Maximilian dude decides, oh my gosh, everyone's got to buy this cabinet,
This is
Marvel
the
versus
way to
Cap.
play it.
Yeah, if he said that, I think they would be golden because he has such a huge following. But that community, when they do like fighting game tournaments, they all show up. They all show up with their own custom fight sticks.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And,
Right.
and they have it exactly how they
It's
want it.
dialed in for them. Yeah.
In my mind, I was thinking like, would though if like tomorrow you said, hey guys, we're gonna do a tournament, but leave your fight sticks at home, and you had like a stage filled with a bunch of arcade one up Marvel versus Capcom boxes, I think they'd be like, WTF.
If there was
So
money involved, if it was a sponsored event,
then you
and it
got it,
was an
yeah.
op, then absolutely, dude, they'd be good. And playing it for fun, I'm sure it would be fine. But yeah, like I can't imagine it takes the place of tournament play that you're describing. But
Yeah, I don't
and
know.
I
Yeah,
don't think it has to either. Like
yeah,
MBC2 is exciting enough that casual people are going to buy it. I would buy it. I'm like the most casual fight game guy ever. So I think
yeah.
it'll still be fine. I think it'll do numbers for them. I actually was surprised that it would be coming out this early. Did that surprise you? Did anything in those leaks surprise you?
Uh,
It was
actually, I don't
Time
know. I don't.
Crisis.
All right,
Marvel
yeah,
vs.
you have to
Capcom
recap it for
2.
me because I don't know all of them. What are all of them?
Oh shit. I should have. Oh, NFL Blitz. That was the one that did surprise me.
So you know what's crazy is I really have not truly played NFL Blitz till since, God, I don't even know, a long time. And even if it's in the arcade, usually unless I have someone that's there
I
playing with
just
me,
walked past it
yeah, I would
like
walk past
always.
it.
Yeah.
And I was playing with I don't want to get too deep down a rabbit hole with this, but I was playing on the Polymega, which is this system where you can it's supposed to be an emulation device that you can put physical discs in, you copy it to it, and you can play it. It's pretty cool. If you're like a collector, it's cool because you can like copy your physical media to it, and then you anyway. So I played the PlayStation 1 version of Blitz, and I was like, crap, this game is actually super fun. Like, you know, you tackle someone and you can jump on them after, like, and just like keep pounding on them. And it's a super casual football game. Like, you don't really, even though you pick plays, you don't really have to know a whole lot about football, and it's still fun because it's like total
That's why it
midway.
works so well.
Yeah, it's like such a midway midway aggressive game. It's like NBA Jam. You can be a non-basketball fan and still think it's super fun because like most of the mechanics are completely not accurate to real basketball.
Or like San Francisco Rush, you can suck at racing simulators, but you just I mean that's what they're great at.
So I was was I surprised about Blitz? No, because John had said that before, but then they alluded. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember they did an article? I think it got taken down actually. David McIntosh mentioned Blitz in some article somewhere, and then they took the article down. And I don't remember why it was.
I did not know about that.
It was something like, and I might be wrong, and maybe someone in the chat can remember, but it had something to do with like there was a lot of sensitivity around concussions and late hits, and that the game was like, I don't know. I guess there's some sensitivity on that, like that. It was
That's
promoting
totally the narrative around Blitz, and I'm sensitive to those narratives because I don't know what it is about our little hobby and world, but these narratives just emerge and someone says them and then they become apocryphal and then they're just true.
And honestly, dude, sometimes I think they're complete nonsense. Like
Yes,
they're
and sometimes
super
they're
fabricated.
bullshit.
Yeah,
Yes.
sometimes they're complete
And
fake.
one guy says it and he feels like he's got an inside track and he's being smart and he's like, well, this can never happen because these following reasons that I ass pulled, right? And so I always wondered if Blitz was like that, but it felt, and this is why rumors get started. So this doesn't lend it any credence, but it felt like it could be real because NFL is sensitive to that. I think there've been and I know nothing about NFL, so I shouldn't even be talking. But I think have been lawsuits, there've been movies about like there's been a social awareness thing. And so I feel like now would be a weird time for Blitz to come out. I hope it comes out. It's a key part of arcade history. But I was surprised the NFL would greenlight it. I wonder if they're going to censor it at all.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll find out.
We'll have to find out.
I don't know. Like, am I shocked about any of them? I guess I'm not, because John was always so like, he'd tease so many things that I think the tease was to get us talking about, is it possible? And he knew in the back of his mind, like, unless I totally screw up, I'm going to be able to secure this license. So it was like, I'm going to float this thing to you that I know is going to happen in a couple years, and you'll talk about it and kind of, it'll weave into conversations. So I wasn't really, what other ones? Yeah, that's true. They might.
Marvel versus Capcom 2, which we knew was coming.
That one surprised me only because of the hardware required to do it. Yeah.
I figured it would be another year out. It
still might be, right? Like,
we don't know. I mean, you know how these retailer deals are. Like there's lots of room for change until it goes public.
Yeah.
And timeline isn't totally clear.
What else was announced besides that? I'm trying to think if there's anything else that...
Time Crisis. Was there anything else? There was that Collectorcade thing, which I didn't know what that was. But I think that's it. Time Crisis, MVC2, Blitz. Yeah.
You made a community post that I thought was interesting. Remember at, I think it was 2019 maybe, where they showed those little like mini TVs with the, like they were like these little,
awesome.
Yeah, those were very, very cool. But I'm wondering, I'm actually surprised by this, but I don't know why they'd want to get into this, but Collectorcade makes me think they're going to try to copy like New Wave Toys and and what's the other one? I can't remember the name of them.
Replicate, or is that New Wave Toys? I always get the names mixed up because there's a company name of a brand.
Numbskull and New Wave Toys.
Numbskull.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Numbskull and New Wave Toys. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Those things are so. Here's the thing: they're so cash grabby, and people buy them because they look cool on shelves and
They don't
stuff.
take up a lot of space.
I guess I mean maybe that's a smart thing. Maybe they realize that there's like a total audience that just collects these mini arcade things, because I think there is. I mean, look at the people do reviews on them all the time, and everyone watches them, and they're like, thanks, they buy them, and so maybe that's a smart move by them. But here's where I think. I mean, if I was covering the space, New Wave Toys and Numbskull do it like really good. Their attention to detail is amazing. So if one
I
going to do
heard
it,
one of the founders talk about, and I forget which company because honestly, I get the two confused. But he was talking about the lighting temperature. So,
yeah, they're
in
no
other words,
joke.
getting for the backlight for the marquee, like that's bonkers.
Yeah, they're so good at it. So if they're gonna do it, like they could also be laughed out of the like space if people are like, dude, what the hell? Like you're charging $100, but this doesn't look anything like the original one. So I think they need to be careful with that. And also John's friends, I think, really good friends with one of the guys over at New Wave Toys too. So I thought that they were kind of buddies. So that'll get interesting for their own relationship if he starts competing with his buddy. But it's all business, I guess.
Was that ever confirmed? Because I got a lot of comments in a video I made that saying that yeah, Collector K probably is that, and that makes sense. They're literal
I don't
collectibles.
think it was ever confirmed. It was just assumed.
Yeah, but it seems like a reasonable assumption.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'd
Again,
rather
going
see
back
the
to the
micro
assumption thing.
consoles. What's that?
I said again, we have to go back to assumptions because they don't tell us anything.
That's all you have. But I mean, that's what makes it fun too. And with the little stuff, the stakes are lower because nobody's worried. We're not giving up housing space to buy any of those other smaller products. I think
Yeah.
when people get mad, like people get emotional about arcade one up. You know, I bought this cabinet, it's broken, I'm angry. And I kind of understand when that happens. And I think it's because you're giving up a part of your house for a product. Like that's how few products do you buy that you give up home real estate for? Like
Well, and
you've
they're
got
not.
some of them behind you right now. There's not a lot of things though.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, dude, it's a lot. A lot has changed. Like, I was talking to someone the other day, and I was like, they're like, how come you don't mod the cabinets anymore? And I was like, well, naturally over time, I don't know, I like moved on from it like you do anything else. Like I just wasn't interested in doing that anymore. But at these prices, like I don't know, at some point I'm like, should I really have to mod it? And then they're giving you things that if you mod it, you lose, like the leaderboards. And I'm one that would have said that leaderboards would be like something I don't care about. But when I got the IA arcade and I was like seeing that other people's names were above mine, I was like, screw that. So it made me want to get a little competitive. So I think leaderboards are actually really cool, but if you mod it, you lose all that stuff. So I don't know, at these prices, it's kind of crazy to mod them. I think if you wanted a multicade, you buy like one of the older one-ups, throw a pie in it, and let that be
Right.
your multicade, or just buy an At Games and be done with it, you know?
Well, it has the same problem At Games has in general. Where do you go next? Like, and mod is a big picture word, but yeah, I think we're talking about swapping internals for a multicade. Okay, you have your multicade. Now what? You're gonna buy 12 more and have 12 multicades? Like, who cares? You sort of done it.
Yeah.
It's cool, and then you move on.
Yeah, Paul in your chat's like, it's different modding a $75 arcade over the full price ones. I mean, it is. It's like they've almost like killed the modding scene because at those prices it just doesn't make sense. It was cool. Like ETA Prime's video initially was like, hey guys, this thing is $2.99. Get in and get out as cheap as possible. Buy these cheap buttons, buy this cheap pie, and go here to get your image, and then you'll have a cool cabinet that plays
I
a bunch
love
of
how
games.
in that video he was very intentional that this is not high quality stuff, so don't bother getting high end buttons.
Yeah.
And then look at, today people are interested in getting arcade authentic buttons to that title, and it's gone like clear the other direction. But back then it was so cheap that it was a totally different narrative.
Yeah. Dude, hold on one sec, because my wife's gonna be coming home and the porch light's not on, and it's right there. I'm just gonna turn it on because she's gonna be like, "Why didn't you
I don't
turn
want
the
her to
porch
beat
light on?"
you on stream. So
Yo,
you
I'll
better
be
take
right
care
back.
of that. All right.
Sorry, dude.
That's all right, brother. It's getting late anyway. What's up, guys, in the chat? So Man, this is my first live stream in forever. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. It's been a fat minute, probably what, 3, 4 months at a minimum since I streamed last. The update, and I know nobody cares about my house. I'm not some narcissist that thinks you guys care. But for anyone that didn't tune in at the beginning, I'm stuck in this bedroom. I'm super self-conscious about it. I work out of my bedroom. I don't work out here, but I work out of it for my day job. So I have a crappy backdrop, but that's going to change in the new house. I'm going to have a dedicated office. And even that though, Ralph, do you work from home at all?
I have worked from home for the past 2 years.
Okay.
So since COVID hit, I did get a chance. I used to work from home, but not like this. I used to travel like 2 weeks out of the month, and then once COVID hit, the traveling stopped. And so I've literally been in this room right here, which doesn't feel like an office when you have arcades all around you for 2 years.
Okay, that's all right. So good. You have some expertise on my question then. So my basement won't be finished right away. My office will be on the first floor. And I have to do day job work there, and I've got to pretend to be professional.
Yeah.
So I can't have like an arcade. I mean, I don't know, maybe I could, but I don't think I should have like a super fun backdrop. So I have like wood paneling, and I was gonna have a painting and shit like that. Like it's gonna look like some boomer's home office, right? Let's be honest. So, but at the same time, that's where I'm going to be doing YouTube stuff because I've just got one desktop computer. I don't plan to have two different areas. How do you balance that? Like, do you have a different backdrop for when you're working during the day, or do you just not care?
Well, it depends. So like our company is a tech company. I work with engineering a lot and product managers, and a lot of those people are kind of geeky. Like, so they don't even really care. Like, if anything, it becomes a conversation piece for meetings. But if I'm doing like a bigger meeting, like let's say it's like I'm talking to a customer or something, I'll either put the green screen up and just put like some kind of company background up, like it's like our branding.
Yeah.
Or I use the blur function in Zoom because it's so good now that as long as you're not moving a lot, it does a pretty good job. That's pretty much what I do.
Okay, smart. So my backdrop will naturally be like built-in bookshelves and stuff. So I can't quite do what you're doing, but there might be a happy medium and then I blur it out. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out which side to optimize for, I guess is my question. Because I know on my videos, I never show my face because my situation screwed up, and I want to get away from that and be a little more personable, but then I can't look like I'm in a damn library. So these are the tough questions we have to ask ourselves.
Trust me, I actually still struggle with that because I was telling my wife, I'm like, you know what, this room is kind of killing me at this point, because I was like, it doesn't feel like an office. I feel like I'm supposed to be doing fun things in this room. So I was like, but where can I move my office stuff? And then upstairs I have, it's probably too much to get into, but upstairs I have like a room that I call the streaming room, and so and up there is all like gaming stuff. So I feel like I can't escape gaming stuff. So I'm in that. I actually have a little bit of that dilemma too, because even though I work out of here, it's kind of become a little uncomfortable because I just feel like I'm not in an office. I feel like I'm in a game room because I am. So if that makes sense.
You don't say. Yeah, no, it does make sense. I'll just have to figure out some medium thing. There's something I wanted to show you aside from that clip earlier. So we had a conversation yesterday. Ralph and I were talking about how kind of, erratic isn't the right word, but I don't know how else to put it. But the YouTube algorithm is hard for mere mortals like myself to predict, right? Like you were saying, you put in effort, you might get the return, or you might not put in effort over there, but you get the return there. Like, it's weird. You don't know when you make a video. So I saw a comment on one of your Chasing Nostalgia episodes, because I was watching it before this just to kind of bone up on it. And what was interesting about the comment was it was a verified account. And he said, "Hey, man, I like your content." And I thought, verified account, and it just was interesting. So I clicked on it, and I want to show it because it's interesting.
Yeah. I don't even know how you become a verified account.
I don't either. And this isn't a huge channel, but we talked about like, what does the algorithm like? We found the answer, man. This is a good one.
Oh no.
If I can, this is the problem with waiting so long from streaming, because then you just like forget how to operate. So this. This is just nothing. Does
That
this
is
look familiar?
totally
Because you
that.
responded to him, but I don't know if you
I
ever
never
looked
went and
at.
looked at his channel, but this is totally like
How awesome is this?
something my son would probably be watching.
Yes, it clearly has a clear demographic, but
Yeah.
it just goes on forever and like hundreds of thousands of. So you asked, you said, man, what does the algorithm want? Well, dude, we found it. It's this. You just got
Well,
to do
dude,
this, dude.
Mason works with a guy, and I'm not at all saying is this guy is amazing, but his YouTube channel is called Badlands Chugs. So I don't know if you've ever watched him before, but this is a
Never
guy
heard of
Mason
it.
works with, and all he does, if you pull it up, all he does is he chugs different beverages. That's it. That's all he does. Go to his channel. He's got tons of subscribers, tons of views, and all he does is chug drinks. So I mean, there's like he kind of
Holy
fits
shit,
into that.
3 million subs for
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Yeah, let
Mason
me.
does that
I'll
guy's
pull it up real quick.
thumbnails.
Again, this is me, dude. Not like it this what we're using right now, what I'm using StreamYard is extremely easy to use, and I'm completely fumbling with it. Give me 1 second. There we go. I think I found it. There we go.
Yeah, all he does is chug drinks. That's it.
3 mil.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the video. Look at that top video that's there. It's got 17 million views or something. The
Yeah.
Mountain Dew chug everyone in a
So this is that mukbang thing, right? But with
Totally.
drink
Yep.
instead of food.
And he's also friends with another guy, and his name is Dame Drops. And all Dame Drops does is he, like, let's say Burger King is coming out with like a ghost pepper nuggets. Like he's gonna be on it. He's gonna be going to Burger King, giving you that instant reaction of the ghost pepper nugget. And think about how many people must like type in Burger King ghost pepper nugget.
Yeah, they
review.
just saw the commercial.
Yeah.
It just popped up. It's
Yep.
relevant.
He's a
Yeah.
huge. I know actually King Kong says this guy is still alive. Yeah, he definitely, like, from a health perspective,
Shit.
I mean, the stuff he drinks is crazy. Like, imagine chugging that many like sugary drinks in one sitting. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, like this is really the stuff that YouTube, like the mukbang scene thing is huge.
It is. It's just, I was going to say it's disturbing, but I can't act disturbed when I'm staring at this. This is like blowing my mind, dude.
Oh, if you watch a couple of his drinks, I mean, a couple of his videos, you'll kind of be hooked because you're like, is he really going to chug that? You know? And it's like, I don't know, is he going to make, but it's all not like high production. Like he's in his car, you know, he's got his food, he gives his reaction, and that's kind of the formula, man. I mean, think about it's low cost and,
yeah. And tailor made for sponsorship, by the way.
Totally. Yep. Because all these companies go, hey, man, they'll send them drinks like, hey, will you chug our, you know, green tea on your show? He's like, sure.
Why the hell not?
Yeah. And then they get promotion out of it. It's crazy.
Is it FDA approved for human consumption? Then, dude, why not chug it? I mean, what's the worst that could happen?
He's a really likable guy, though. Like his personality is super
I'm
likable.
sure to get to that level, it's not just chugging it. Like I mean, probably he was early on the trend if he's 3 million subs, but I'm sure he does a lot that's worth watching.
And he's part of like the national, whatever the Joey Chestnut guy is part of, that whole like food, I don't know what it's called, like competitive food eating, whatever association. He's part of all that. So
they do that for drinking? I've only ever seen the hot dog thing.
Well, I don't know if they do it for drinking, but he does that too. Like he'll do competitive eating too. So even though he does the drinks, he'll get invited to those competitive eating events and stuff. And he's kind of partnered with that Dame Drops guy, and so they're friends. So he does a lot of the mukbang stuff. And then, I mean, if you want to go really deep down the rabbit hole.
Oh, God, I don't. I'm never going to sleep.
Dude, my wife is a vegan. And she goes, this was like, I showed her Dame Drops. And she goes, have you ever heard of that vegan guy who's not vegan anymore, who went off the train tracks? I was like, no, what's his name? And his name's Nick Avocado. And she's like, let's go watch. You got to see his videos.
I know who that is.
I mean, the guy is literally going to kill himself.
Yes, and that's what I meant by not being able to sleep, because I've seen photos of guys like him. There's some really gross shit on the internet that are his photos that I don't even think they leaked. I think he published them. It's turbo gross. But it's huge, and he gets a lot of subs, but then it's like, dude, you're killing yourself.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But he keeps doing it because, you know, he's making money, and like if he stopped doing it, his audience would probably move on. I mean, I don't know, maybe not, but
well, the Dame Drops guy, because Mason works with him, does some of his thumbnail work. He actually like he's talked about it publicly. Like, look, I do this where I'm going and I'm eating this food, but I really try to, because he's not like doing the mukbang thing where he's like, oh my gosh, here's three roasted chickens and I'm gonna eat all of them. He just kind of is more of like a, I'm gonna eat this and give you my reaction to it. But he has talked about it publicly. Like, look, to do this work, you do have to be aware of what you're putting in your body and consumption, because yeah, you can. I mean, the food he's eating isn't healthy food. So,
Yeah, no
but
kidding.
yeah, I can't imagine that. But I'm sure guys like Nick Avocado are making millions of dollars a year. So there's like this.
Well, did you
What do
hear
you?
the story about this just happened, but it blew my mind because he probably is making millions of dollars a year. Did you hear about the crime that happened while he was on stream? Does that sound familiar to
No,
you?
no.
So some woman was assaulted. I don't know what words are going to freak out YouTube, and not that it matters, but someone was assaulted in like a house next door, and you can hear the scream. And I didn't watch it because that's like two levels of disturbing. Like that
Yeah.
would just freak me out. I'm a wuss, but you can, I guess, hear her scream. She was assaulted. Cops come. There was a stabbing involved,
Oh,
and it
geez.
was while he. The only reason it's recorded, it's while he was recording a video, or he was probably live streaming. Would be my guess. I don't know. Again, I didn't watch it. I just read about it.
Oh
But
my
dude, how
gosh.
bananas is that?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
So we're so overexposed now that people stream everything. You can like hear this shit, like just crazy stuff happening. I don't know, man. I don't know how we got down that
Yeah, I
crazy
don't know. We
rabbit
just,
hole, but
yeah. Well, just
good
YouTube's
lord.
crazy. I mean, we were talking about how, like, how do you appeal to the audience? And it's like, when you
Yeah,
really think about it, our content that we cover, whether you're covering 3/4 scale home arcades or regular arcades, I mean, it's a very niche topic.
absolutely.
So, you know, it's fun that there's this new audience that I think the one thing One Up did is they built this, or all these 3/4 companies, is there's a lot of people that maybe were gamers and enjoyed arcades back in the day, and now this reinvigorated their interest in it. But it's still a very small subset. Like, it's even harder to make real arcade content because the audience is even smaller. But the thing I feel grateful for is that some of the people that were with me in the beginning have stuck with me because they're actually very much interested in arcade gaming, whether it's a 3/4 scale or a real one. They don't care. They just are interested in arcade gaming in general. But the audience is super small, dude. I mean, think about it. Todd Tuckey has been doing this almost his whole career. He's been kind of this celebrity person, and I think he's got 44,000 subscribers. The next biggest person in arcade, the biggest person in arcade, in like traditional arcade, not like redemption machines and that kind of crap, but would be John's Arcade, and that's it. Like, there's no one bigger than that. So that puts it into perspective of what
That
is
was
my
one. It's
total
funny you're
audience.
saying this because I had a question for what's the ceiling for that content, because there are really big retro channels, but they're console focused
And
for
think about how much larger that audience
yes,
is. Like, think about how many millions of consoles are out there. It's like
right,
tens of hundreds of millions, where
hundreds of
it's like,
millions. Yeah,
yeah,
hundreds
hundreds
of
of
millions.
millions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, John's Arcade was really the biggest. So like, if I'm looking at, well, like, am I successful in this space? If that's like a conversation I want to have, I'm going to look at him and go, well, he's the biggest one. So, you know, what can I learn from that?
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I think that's like a healthy way to look at it. Like, you look at who's larger than you, and you kind of look at like, well, what can I maybe learn from them? And, you know, I look at like a guy like Metal Jesus Rocks. His audience is so broad because he covers all the retro stuff, and he
Just
still
retro in
covers,
general.
and he still covers modern from time to time too, and he's super
Right.
knowledgeable about the gaming industry too. So it's like, there's no wonder why he's as big as he is, because he started early, and he's got like this huge audience pool because he covers such a wide topic. So
Yeah, I'm always impressed with creators that can cover both and bring an audience with them, 'cause I feel like that's hard to do. By both, I mean retro and modern. And there are guys that do it. There are even like more mid-sized YouTubers, like the 100,000 sub type people. They're making a good living, but they're not at the level of a Metal Jesus Rocks. But I'll see them do both sides, and to me, that's impressive that they're able to pull that off. Not
yeah, no,
being
I think
knowledgeable
so.
about both sides, but the part where your audience cares. because a lot of channels, like for me, I feel like if I step half an inch away from home arcade, like nobody cares. So that's, to me, I always have to fight like burnout of like, Jesus, do I, as much as I like home arcade, and it's tough this year because I don't have one anymore, so I don't have that
Yeah.
personal connection. I'll have it again pretty soon, but that was tough for me. But you know, branching out and doing something different, I feel like number one, and I'm saying this and I don't take my own advice, but number one should be, is it something you enjoy? And it's clear you enjoy what you're doing, even if it's frustrating sometimes, and you know all the stuff. But like clearly you love it, and I mean that has to be the first thing, right?
Well, and that's the thing. Like I've become like really good friends over when I first started YouTube. One of the first people I reached out, one of the first people I reached out to, and he actually responded to me was Wicked Gamer and Collector. He does all the package from China
Yeah, I've seen
stuff.
his
And
channel. Yeah.
yeah, super nice guy, and we became pretty close friends. And he does it full time though as his job, and so sometimes like if you're doing it full time, he does do a lot of videos that are truly passionate, that he's truly passionate about. But he was known for a while for covering like those handheld emulation devices,
That's
and
a
we would have
surprisingly big category.
yeah, and he would have this conversation with me. He's like, I don't know if I can keep covering it. Like he's like, it's the struggle of maybe he's less passionate. Like think about it, if you covered it for 3 years, just handheld, devices, at some point he just loses the interest in it. And so like he spun off a separate channel for the handheld gaming stuff because his audience still likes it. And it's not that he doesn't like it anymore. It's just the passion isn't quite there like it was before. And I think that's if you're doing it full time and that's your only job, then it's that undoubtedly you're gonna branch into topics that maybe your audience wants you to talk about, but you're less passionate about because it's your livelihood.
Yeah,
Like you don't eat if you don't get views and get revenue. So that's I think that's the line you have to. I don't, and I'm dude, I don't make any money. I mean, to do this full time, I would basically be like, daughter, you're not going to college, and we're moving
and
out of
you're
this
not
house,
eating.
and yeah, it's impossible
And we
at
can't
this
run
scale.
electricity to power these arcades.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously, it would be
Well,
pretty rough.
I don't know. We don't need to get into this too much, but we've kind of talked about the difference in the ecosystem of home arcade and real arcade. And one of the things I've always been confused by is sort of what I think of as gatekeeping around home arcade. And I don't get it because no one really makes much money from it. So kind of to your point that like it's hard to make a lot of money. Like we're not making, I make squat, it's a few bucks. It's nice. Goes into like Bitcoin or whatever. It's a little fun, whatever. But I feel like there's a lot of I don't know if passion's the word, but like, or I don't know if butt hurt's the word, or it's somewhere in between the two concepts, but something about the home arcade space I feel like people really pucker up around. And I don't get it because it's so small. It should just kind of be a hobby and fun. It's not anybody's full-time job.
I think you answered why. I think because it's so small. Like obviously, I think it's small. You have we all know who the creators are. Everyone knows who the people are that make the content in that. And I think unfortunately, because it's so small, like egos get in the way sometimes. And like and like think about it, right? If you're covering if you're covering the Nintendo Switch and that's all you cover, there's so many content creators that cover the Nintendo Switch.
Thousands.
So like you could have two Nintendo Switch YouTubers probably doing the exact same video that don't even know each other. Like they'd have no clue that they even exist. Where in our space, everyone knows each other. So I think sometimes there's that like someone gets an idea, maybe they were talking to the other creator about it, one does it before them. Now they're feeling like, hey, that was my idea. Why'd you steal my idea? So like, even though this is the stuff the audience probably doesn't, the audience just wants to come for entertainment. There's
Right.
like, there is a level or element of that like drama that exists. And that sucks. But I think the reason why it exists is because it's so small and because you only have like, I don't know, it's got to be less than 50 total. If you talk about the ones that have like at least 1,000 subscribers or more, there's probably less than 50 of those, I would think. So
I think
it's
you're right.
unfortunate. And I know what you're talking about. There's definitely that happens. Someone will write some passive aggressive comment on Twitter, and then the person totally knows it's about them, but they're not saying it. But you're like,
Right.
well, that's probably about me. That's messed up. But
Right.
it's just, that stuff is kind of silly. I wish it didn't exist, but it does because we're all humans. And I think humans have egos, and it's just kind of, it's the unfortunate part of our niche or our niche being small.
But you mentioned you haven't really felt that in real arcade world. Is that
Dude,
still true?
totally not at all. It's completely different.
See,
Yeah,
that blows
like
my mind because that's a niche too. And I feel like a lot of the things that are true for home arcade are also true for original hardware. But
I think because there's so much diversity in it. You've got some channels that they
that's
pride
true.
themselves on, like, I'm the repair guy. You're gonna come to my channel and I'm gonna show you how to solder stuff.
Yeah.
Like, if
And there's
I show that
pinball
stuff,
guys and
it's like
everything.
quick. If I show someone soldering something, I know that the audience that grew up with my channel does not want to see me solder for 30 minutes. They might be interested in what I'm doing to fix it, but that's going to be like a 30-second clip or a minute clip. But there's arcade guys that is their whole channel. It's, you come here and I'll teach you how to fix this, arcade PCB by soldering it or whatever. So, and I think a lot of I don't know, it isn't, I'm telling you, I have encountered very, very little drama, gatekeeping, or any of that in this space. The only, I really can't think of, honestly, I can't think of an instance where I had drama in the arcade, like the real arcade space. I
King
can't.
Kong solved the riddle for us. And I shouldn't put this on the screen so I don't have real arcade. So this doesn't put me in a good light, but it's funny nonetheless.
Well, he's just kidding, but
Yeah, I know. That's why it's funny. But yeah. I don't know, man. I think bottom line, it's passionate, dude. I love what you're doing with chasing. And I know you had some other produced content before that too. And so you've experimented, you've tried stuff. It's been fun to watch evolve. And just you've been leveling up, having fun with it clearly. And like I said, I'm not trying to put rose tinted glasses on it because I know what you said earlier, I'm sure is very real, that you have frustration, sometimes want to give it up and stuff. But at the end of the day, dude, you've got an archive of content you've created you'd be proud of, and that's pretty cool, man. So
have you almost ever
give you a lot of credit.
have you thank you, I appreciate that. Have you ever almost quit?
And there might be an issue with the internet connection. I can hear you fine. I think the video might be weird.
Oh, weird. I'm like, Paul,
Let me try that.
am I out?
No, I just put you back on.
Oh, weird. I'm like, you can hear
I
me
can
though,
still
right?
hear you, so I can answer that and we can roll. But yeah, so
Oh,
you're
that's
asking
weird.
if I almost like ever had a moment where I almost quit.
Yeah. Have you ever had that?
Um, no, but I think the answer is because I don't do it the way you do. Like for me, it's a small obligation. It's a small amount of time. So it's small enough that it can still be like quick and fun and whatever. It's lower stakes. Like you mentioned, you got a production budget for an episode of Chasing. I've got you on now, by the way.
Okay. I'm fixing, I don't know what happened, but I just,
Oh, it's all
looks like
good.
it's good now.
But I think if I were putting a lot of money and time into it, like you've done, I think I absolutely would have hit that. But to me, it's just, is there anything worth talking about that has a hook that's relevant that could be quick? Because I have, I'm fairly busy with my job, and I've got a few other things kind of going on. Just and everyone does. Everyone's got different irons in the fire, but I've got a few different irons in the fire, so I can't spend a large amount of time. So in that sense, I never got started. Like I never did the whole production and made that kind of content. But for what I do, it's easy, it's quick, it's satisfying. I feel like I'm just giving people content that they might otherwise read, but here I can give in my comments and have voice. And I think some people want that. And I respond to that content because that's what I like. That's what I mostly watch on YouTube, are people talking about whatever news events,
Yeah.
interjecting commentary. So that's what I personally like to consume. So that's the content I like to make.
Well,
So
and I
the
think
only
you
thing
have a
that's
unique
ever
spin on it though too. I feel like from watching you, you have you talk a lot about it in like a curiosity as to why they made this decision. So you
oh, I
start talking a little
know.
bit about like the businessy part, which I really like because I'm fascinated by the fact that this company is still like that any of these are still doing well. Like I am totally fascinated. So when you say
It's
like,
amazing.
what were they thinking here when they did this or that? Is there a market for this? Like who's the target audience? Like when you talk about all that stuff, I find that really interesting because not everyone takes that approach to it. So I think that's your like unique differentiator in my opinion when I watch your
And that's what I
content.
like talking about. So that's that for me. That's fun. What I've thought about is, should I try a different channel in a different area? Because at the end of the day, the kind of content I make, there's only so much. that could be done within a week or a month. And I've got dry spells, and it's not because I don't want to make content. It's just there's not really much happening that I think is significant to talk about. So I just don't put it out there. But I would like to try my hand in doing that style of content across some other verticals or other interests that I have too, which I know is kind of a weird answer, but yeah, the business angle of it is what I like because yeah, dude, that's what these are. Like these are businesses. These are organizations that are shaping. It's our hobby, but they've shaped a market.
Yeah.
Like us, like your channel and my channel and a lot of other channels literally exist partly because these people said, "Hey, we have an idea. Let's make these arcades." And like we'd be talking about something else maybe, but so to me that's fascinating. My day job involved creating a new market where there wasn't one before, and man, it's hard. And in some
Yeah.
ways, that's like the crappy way to do things. In some ways, it's better, and you can make more money and be more successful if you like go where there's a clear market and you're going to do that. And Arcade What Up kind of did that, I think. They created something to, you call it Greenfield or whatever, but they created something unique where there
Yeah.
wasn't that. There were similar things, but they literally created a market. So to me, that's fascinating. And then, yeah, there's no end of like, what the hell are they doing with XL and Pro cabinet that we could talk about, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, they had people that came, like I'm also fascinated by, like, they had people that did it before them but failed. So like, I would have loved to know if any of that was taken into consideration when they made their products. Were they like, all right, these are the things that are out there and they didn't work? Like I did a video about this product that came out. I can't even remember the name of the company. It's like Big Electronics, some limited or something. And they had an arcade that they sold at Target that had a CRT in it, and it was Midway licensed. And they had a Konami one. They even had a Golden Tee one.
Dude, when was this? I've never heard of this.
Oh, you got to go to my channel. It's called Life Before One Up is the name of the video, and
I saw the thought. I didn't. I'm sorry to say this. I didn't watch that, and I need to watch it. I had no idea there was a commercial CRT
yeah.
based.
So
Holy
yeah,
shit.
it was at, they sold it at Target. They made a Konami, a Midway, and it had good games on it too. They had Konami, a Midway, and then they made a Golden Tee one. And I'm
Dude, you're blowing my
sure
mind.
they would have looked at that and said, like, why did this not succeed? I mean, but when it makes you, the reason why I did that video is because I was like, all right, I've covered a bunch of 1UP stuff, but what would be interesting at this point? Because I'm not going to do a product review because they've seen that a bunch. And I'm like, well, what if we talk about what came before it? It made me appreciate 1UP more after I bought it, because I bought it on Marketplace and I was like, man, this thing, other than having a CRT, I was like, this thing kind of sucks. Like the buttons were terrible, and we complain about the 1UP buttons.
That's so tragic.
The joysticks were bad. The buttons were bad. It had the names of the games on the front, but it was like, it just wasn't a good. It wasn't a great product, and the wood was thinner than 1UP's wood. I mean, it was all around. It just like was a total disaster. But the games were good. So I think the thing that kept it afloat for a while is it had good games. But yeah, I think that they had to have looked at these things that were failures and went, what could we do to kind of make it appealing? Because as far as I can see, there's still no signs of slowing down. And there's Kevgret's in your chat. He's always saying, what the hell, man? You're charging all this money and there's still problems, but people are still buying them. So, I mean, I don't know. Until people stop buying them, some of these little quirky things are probably just going to continue to exist, you know?
Yeah, I'm debating if I want to go down that road at all or not. But they've said repeatedly that I think what they've said is the costs are such that we can't do a further higher quality, and that's when they're putting the draw on the line of saying of name brand controls. But other times it's continuing improvement, and in some ways it is. But I feel like the controls have totally plateaued. Like the quality of controls we get for a while from them are kind of what we're stuck with. But I don't know. Who knows if the XL? I need to go and watch the reviews for the new Golden Tee XL because I wondered if the trackball, and I actually thought the original Golden Tee trackball was not bad.
It wasn't bad. Yeah,
it wasn't bad, but I wonder if this new one is even better, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's the weird thing is they're kind of, the way they're marketing it, they're almost like, well, the XL is just a bigger version of your 3/4 scale one, and the Pro is really where we're going to start to put more attention to detail in sound and in controls. And so I don't know. There, whatever that part of the audience is that got to them enough that said we want this pro thing or we want this thing with premium parts. We'll see if those people show up when the price is $1,000, you know, or whatever it is, because that's even more expensive. And I don't think that they're going to give you more games. I think they're putting the money into this hardware difference that hopefully you find enough value in that you're going to spend $1,000 a pop on it now. I don't know. I'm really curious if that's going to be successful. You know, every YouTuber is going to buy it out of sheer curiosity, but will their audience buy it? Because people, when these first came out, people were like, "Wow, $300 is a lot that?"
Dude,
And now
doesn't that? It sounds like we're old people talking about 70 years ago before the war, because the value of money has changed so much in the last couple of years. We're like, I remember when it was like $2.99. That was 3 years ago.
I have one piece of information that could not. It's just a speculative thing. If for some reason we head in any kind of a recession, I think that's when OneUp is screwed, and all these companies are screwed, because every one of them, Stern isn't going to be in trouble. Raw Thrills, anybody that sells any of this stuff, maybe not the arcade stuff, but like any home arcade stuff is going to be in severe trouble if the economy takes a hit, because those are like luxury things that you don't just buy when you're hurting for money, right? So if economy stays healthy, I think OneUp has a pretty bright continued future if they can figure out how to like keep it fresh. But if the economy goes bad, I think that's like that. If it's for a long period of time, I think that puts like a nail in the, or at least one nail in the coffin, right? As far as their longevity goes.
Well, and even aside from something dramatic like a recession, which definitely could happen, don't you feel like these rising material and fuel costs are a huge threat to OneUp? I mean, they're
It's got to be.
think about the fundamentals of, we're going to take something that weighs 100 pounds, we're going to move it from one end of the earth to the other so you can play 3 games from 1986. Like that doesn't that sort of feel like a really luxurious way to do? Like, it's cool, it's super cool, but how do you do that if fuel is $15 a gallon or whatever? And I'm not saying it'll get there, but it just, hypothetically, if this stuff continues to increase, and of course we know that the shortage of processors and things, but it feels like something that was really well suited to good times, and if times aren't so good, that's rough.
Yeah, I think it would take a turn. I mean, everything will, though. I mean, especially you look
For
at
sure.
Stern Pinball is like they're killing it right now. And these are super expensive things. I mean, you've got the basic version of a Stern Pinball machine, which they don't make the home version in every model. It's just a couple. It's like the Jurassic Park and Star Wars, I think, are the only two. And they're like, I think they're $499 or $499. They're $5,000. That's the basic one. Then you move up to the Pro line, and the Pro line is like $699, a little bit more now. So like you're talking north of like $7,000 plus, and if you want a limited edition, it's $10,000 plus. So like those items would take a major hit in a recession, because look, they're freaking already super expensive as it is.
We can't get too nerdy on this. This is going to put everyone to sleep.
I know it's a crazy topic, but
well, I read a compelling analysis that I'm not smart enough to re-explain, but it convinced me at the time that if you have like a worsening economy, you still have enough people at the top with enough money that extreme luxury goods like what you just described actually do really well, because they only need a really small audience of people who can buy them. Like you said earlier, some of their production runs are like 500 or whatever tables.
That's a good point.
They don't need 500. Arcade OneUp needs a middle class. You know, the super rich guy in a mansion probably isn't buying OneUps. He's buying a solid wood shuffleboard, and he's buying that stuff.
Yeah.
He's probably not buying OneUp. But if you live in a dorm or your parents' basement, you're probably not buying OneUp either. They need a middle class. If that middle class starts to shrink or continues to shrink, and again, it's a stupid topic to get into right now, because like, who the hell cares? Like, it's total buzzkill. But if that happens,
I know we need to. Our last topic needs to be something happy.
Well, all right. Here's the last topic. So I wanted to ask you this earlier. You kind of brought it up earlier. So you're selling stuff. You're selling what? You're selling off some of your arcades.
No, so I had talked with Mason. Mason and I had thought about doing a a crowdfunding thing to fund Chasing Nostalgia. And we had thought about like how these packages you'd get with like a DVD version of the show and like all this stuff. We thought about all this stuff, or like a thumb drive. I don't know. And then I was like, you know what? I don't really want to do that. And so I kind of just shelved the idea. We came up with some cool like benefits to contributing to the Kickstarter or whatever it was going to be. But I'm like, nah, I don't feel like I just didn't want to ask for the money, and I just felt it didn't feel right. So it comes along. I talked to a buddy of mine. He's like, have you ever heard of this app called Whatnot? And I'm like, no. And so it's this online auction platform. So imagine eBay, except you're bidding on the thing live, and you win it live. So it's like immediate gratification. You won the thing. It's getting shipped to your house. So I was like, no, tell me about it. So he told me about it, and it got me thinking. A month before, I was complaining to Kim about, I have all of this stuff, and granted, I love it. I don't need it. Like, I have so much console stuff that I've collected over the years. So it like a light bulb went off on that old conversation. And I was like, shoot, well, maybe I should try the app and see if I can fund Chasing Nostalgia episodes by taking subsets of my collection and selling it. And so far I've done 2 auctions, and I have all the funding I need to do the next episode, and maybe even one more. So it's like, am I going to miss the things I auctioned off? Maybe some of it. Like King Konk was in my auction today. Like, yeah, there's going to be a couple things that I definitely auction off where I'm going to be like, damn it, I should have kept that.
So these are consoles, peripherals, games. I haven't looked at it, so I don't know what.
Yeah, I've sold like Sega Saturn games, Genesis games, some Sega CD games. I sold an actual. I auctioned off a Model 1 Sega Genesis with the box and everything today. So
I saw that post, yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of a cool way, because someone's getting something. They don't feel like, oh, why is Ralph asking for money all of a sudden to produce content? You know, it's like, so I mean, it's all free will, whether you want to participate in the auction or not.
It's an actual product they're getting.
Yeah, they're getting something. So if you're a collector, they get the item, and I'm able to get some funds for the show. So yeah, it was cool because I raised enough already to do 2 episodes. So there you go. So it was kind of a positive.
Yeah, that's super positive. And I'm sure your wife appreciates that news, right? That it's sort of self-sustaining in some way.
She's funny. She's like, yeah, let's keep selling. I made the mistake of telling her how much we made in the first auction. She's like, you made what? This is awesome. Let's keep auctioning everything. I'm like, whoa.
Let's sell everything.
Yeah, hold on a second.
Yeah, because it's sort of the problem One Up has, right? Like eventually they run out of stuff to sell. You can't just go forever, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man.
The Bad Dudes, I did sell an arcade PCB, and I definitely took a bath on that one. I have an original Bad Dudes, and I put the starting bid at like $65, and it got sold for $75. That's actually that one I definitely, some items you just have to be careful with, because like right now, most of the people on that app are not looking to buy arcade stuff. It's mostly all console collectors. The app started as trading cards. So like the person that founded it wanted a place where people could trade trading cards and like Pokemon stuff and that kind of thing.
But there's so many marketplaces have started there.
Yeah.
Like that's such a good place to kick things off.
And they're super strict about everything being authentic. Like you can't sell bootleg stuff. Like it has to be, you can't sell like reproduction. And if you do, you have to be very obvious that, hey, this is not a authentic thing. Sure. But yeah, so it's all console stuff right now, but I don't think the platform, unless I advertise it in arcade areas, I'm not thinking it's going to be like a place to sell arcade stuff. I think I would stick with like eBay or like a Facebook Marketplace or something. Yeah. But gaming stuff, there's tons of fans of that. Like I was shocked and they know the values of the items. So like there are some people that get excited, I think, with auctions, and they start bidding things up, and maybe they get excited and they bid more and they pay more than they think. But so far I've felt like, although King Konk would disagree with me, I feel like I'm getting fair prices for this stuff. He thinks I'm taking a bath on some of the stuff, but I think I'm getting fair prices for it, and someone else can enjoy it. So it's all good.
And you're funding a hobby you love, man. That's
so
a lot of wins.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, listen, boss, I appreciate you spending some time with me tonight, man.
Yeah, this was super fun. I feel like we went into a lot of directions, but it was super fun.
Yeah, we went to some weird directions. I, I pulled things in some weird spots at a few places, but it was cool. Somebody asked too, and I wanted to bring it up before we leave. Do you have a timeline for when you want to do your next? And I don't know why it looks like my camera has Vaseline on it or what the hell's going on.
You have
But
bilinear filtering turned on your Arcade One.
yeah, apparently, and apparently they use bilinear filtering on Mexican soap operas in the 90s too. Do you ever see like old footage of that? It's always blurry, like
fuzzy, yeah.
yeah, it's weird. But your next episode of Chasing Nostalgia, do you have a plan for when you want to do that?
No, this one is weird because work really picked up like coming out of, I mean, depending who you talk to, some people will be like, oh, we're still in like the middle of a pandemic. But I mean, as far as like our business is concerned, they're like opening up the floodgates to things. So I'm going to be, potentially traveling a little bit and doing that. So I really don't know yet. I got a couple of options, but I'll definitely be doing one in the next couple months. I just don't know where yet. But there's definitely like I want it to be different. Like there's people that naturally everyone wants me to go to TNT Amusements in Pennsylvania. They're like, go visit Todd. But so many people visit Todd, and I love him. I've become friends with him over the time that since I met him in that video, and I was all nervous, and he would be totally up for it. The guy loves that kind of stuff. But I'm trying to kind of do things that maybe it's less out there. You know what I mean? Like, oh, Kong is King Kong or
yeah, he had a funny
Kong's Rust is busting on your camera.
Yeah, it's I feel like it's degraded. I don't know if maybe my eyes have gotten worse the longer we've gone, or I feel like my damn camera looks worse.
Oh shoot, I am in I'm actually set to 480p. There I am. Now I'm set to 720. I was set to the lower resolution on my side.
Wait, how did you? Oh my god, this is so effing new that I don't know. How did you set it? Where's the setting?
If you go to settings and you go to your camera, there's a thing that says show advanced options.
Yeah.
And then it'll say like 480p. But
dude, I'm at 720, but this is not 720.
I think it's out of. I think your thing is just. It's like autofocus is messed up or something.
Yes, that has to be what it is. The autofocus went weird. I don't know. See, like that's 480, and then that's crisper. So something went
true.
weird.
It looks better right now. Yeah.
Jesus, sorry about that, guys. Yeah, and it like got stuck. So I don't know. I got to figure out a better camera situation, but at least this isn't going to give me like early onset glaucoma or some shit.
Well, I gave you a long-winded answer, but yeah, I don't know exactly. I'm doing another one. I don't know exactly when, but definitely start to plan it soon.
Cool. And what's the timeline once you start working on it? How long does it take you to cut an episode?
It kind of depends on Mason's schedule because like him and I, it's really hard, dude, because honestly, when the episode's done and we're editing it, the editing, like there are weeks, I don't, hopefully no one from my job ever watches this, but there are weeks where like I'm on the phone with Mason for like 3 hours during the week trying to do my day job and talk to him. I'm like, no, that's not right. Or yeah, that music sounds good. Or, oh yeah, I don't like the voiceover. I'm going to send you another one. Like if I didn't do it a little bit during work hours, it would never get done. Like it would never get done because Mason wants to bang it out. He's like, all right, let's go. And I'm like, dude, I'm supposed to be working. And so then those nights tend to be late nights for me. So it's like that even takes away from regular uploads while we're doing it. So, it's usually a month. I mean, it doesn't take a month, but it's usually like if we finish it, it's usually 2 weeks out, and then I'll wait another week or so to try to figure out how to launch it on a Friday or something. I don't know. It's really not that much scientific, to be honest.
I didn't expect it would be, but a few weeks, is that roughly the timeline we're living in?
Yeah, usually. I mean, Mason and I get into our little tiffs back and forth. So we have to deal with those things too, where him and I are like, we'll be working late and he'll get cranky or I'll get cranky. It's usually me being cranky though, but if I don't eat, Mason now brings snacks when we film because if I don't eat, I turn into a mofo. So,
dude, I know that feeling, and I feel like I should be old enough that I've evolved beyond that, where I'm not so subject to just I'm hungry, I'm gonna be pissed off. But I've never figured out that answer to life, my dude.
I don't know either, man. I got to bring snacks. Yeah, that's the only way I can do it.
Poor blood sugar regulation is probably the real answer.
Something like that.
Well, listen, brother, good talking with you. Thanks.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm sure we'll be talking too on the side, texting and stuff. So
it sounds good, man. And I look forward to seeing what you're working on next, my man. But it's fun. It's exciting that dude, just something so simple like some little mini arcades and you got a show around it now, you know, that you work on, and there's just
It's crazy.
isn't it weird how there's just these ecosystems just evolve? It's awesome to see it though.
And they will, and they'll continue to, right? I mean, I get
For sure.
there's all these people right now that are doing something in this hobby right now that don't even realize it's probably going to morph into something completely different. But that's kind of like, that's good. That's growth. And that's good for everybody. So the skills that you gain through YouTube are skills you can use almost anywhere, right? I mean, I felt so I do videos for my work now, marketing videos, and I don't know that I would be able to do that had I not done YouTube, or
I
not to
had
the
the
degree I
same.
can.
I don't have the same level of experience you have on, you know, the levels of videos you've created, but even with what I've done, I've had to do some marketing videos too, man. And I was like,
And
Jesus, I'm
doesn't
so
it help?
glad I know my way around some basic video editing and some stuff and
Yeah,
some sense of pacing a little bit. But yeah, I'm with you.
it definitely does.
Well,
All
cool,
right,
brother.
man.
Thanks
Well,
everyone for hanging out with us tonight, man. I appreciate it. Have a good Friday night. Tomorrow I'm going to be at a live UFC event, so wish me luck.
oh, nice. That'll be
I'm
fun.
excited. I've never been to one, so I'm thrilled.
Nice. All right, dude. Well, hopefully you'll have me back sometime, or maybe I can have you over on Coffee Talk or something.
Yeah, man, that sounds good. I'll
I
take
get
you
to
up
put
on
you on the
that.
hot seat.
Yeah,
I'm
dude,
gonna
you
I'm
can
gonna try to
grill
find a
me.
video of you eating food weird. I'm just kidding. I'm
Hey,
just kidding.
go back and watch episode 3. Well, see, that's why I don't show my face because now you don't have content. So good
Damn
luck.
it. I'll find
Foiled
something.
again. Hey, thanks, man. I'll talk to you soon. Everybody have a good night and enjoy your week.
All right, bud. Take care. Take care, everybody.
See you, man.